Hey, Michael. Good.
No. Getting close. Waiting for Eric.
Good. Let you work.
Great. We're gonna come soon, so
We'll move
Sorry.
on.
it's homecoming. So they have all these displays.
What do you have down there?
You know where Bowman Field is? Or-
Yeah.
They'll have a lot of displays.
Of what? Like a.
All the fraternities and
Okay.
sororities, they'll
Yeah.
have displays. If you go to, if you can see, some of these places, you know, you can see Clemson. You can go there Saturday, Friday night.
Okay.
10 o'clock, you can see the fireworks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, figuring out my routine.
We went one year. We saw it one year.
But yeah, otherwise I don't get.
I wouldn't know you.
You should do too. Otherwise you just don't get anything done because you haven't, because I've got plenty of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Why does Clemson, if I recall, they do not have fraternity houses, correct?
They do.
They do?
Well, they did when I was there. But then I don't think they do it anymore.
I wonder why.
They can't behave.
They used to have the old army barracks, you know, the old quadrangle. They used to have I think there
Very
was
good.
a
Thank you so
problem.
much.
You know, some of the short-term rentals are Georgia people. Just like-
Yeah.
They come up, spend the weekend behind the.
Tennessee's messed up the whole
They have.
play.
Yeah, they threw it.
Somebody
threw a
could have
kink
to
in
go, I'm afraid. Could be Georgia.
No, Georgia's on top.
Yeah, but they got to play Tennessee, and if they lose,
They'll go down like Clemson.
and what would happen, I think, if Tennessee wins.
Well, Clemson hasn't lost
They
it.
get the Southeastern Conference
I didn't
gets
know.
one
Yeah.
entry, and then
Oh, yeah. that'd be
everybody
problem.
else.
Clemson
They
came-
need that 12 team play.
Clemson came close to the Wake Forest. And then Florida State, they could have lost that game easily.
Thanks.
Yeah, Florida State's starting to look better.
Yeah.
This year anyway. Tennessee's the real deal though. They're shit. I mean, they got a lot to play for though too.
Yeah.
I mean, bad for so long. Oh, it was forever ago. Yeah, that's what I heard that. I heard that stat on a podcast. That was just wow.
Is Eric not coming?
I don't know. You heard from Eric?
He's not gonna be here. So it is 7 o'clock. Shall we begin? Let me do one thing. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Highlands Town Board of Commissioners for Thursday, October the 21st, 2022. Welcome to everyone. I will remind our commissioners, we are live on YouTube at this point. So when you have a comment, please speak into the mic. It will pick up on the broadcast. First item will be a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Will you join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item is a statement of conflict of interest. I just call attention to that statement with our commissioners. If you have a conflict on any item, please let us know. The next
Mr.
item.
Mayor, I have two conflicts.
Okay.
Betsy and I are members of the Chamber of Commerce, and we have a business relationship with Above and Beyond Landscaping, and they're discussing item 14.
Okay. I would not rate, I would not evaluate either one of those as a conflict, but I appreciate you disclosing
I
that
took 2
relationship.
ethics classes, and I'm going to go beyond what anything that I'm
That's fine.
supposed to do.
But it does not meet the order of a conflict according to North Carolina statutes. But I appreciate you divulging your relationships with those groups. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. The next item will be public comment. If anyone would like to make a public comment, if you'll come up to the podium and state your name, and we'd appreciate it if you can keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes. But I'm going to open up the floor now for anyone who would like to make a public comment.
Hello, my name's Morris Williams, and I would like to request some clarification of the changes that were made to the STR ordinance at the last meeting. It was my understanding that if you had operated STR before September 15th, you could keep on going, but no new STRs could be started after that. I also understood that there was a complaint policy that if somebody thought there was a new STR that was started, they could file a complaint, and that complaint would be investigated, and the owners would be contacted and asked to provide evidence or proof that they had been operating an STR before that date. I know that there were at least 3 or 4 methods to prove that you had operated. One being that you have documentation that shows that you filed, collected and remitted the occupancy tax. Another way was to show that your tax returns showed rental income during that period. A third one was that you had a contract that you had made for STR. And that one has some questions about it. The question is, was the date of the contract what is the guiding force, or was it the date that the rental was the rental period of when somebody was staying there? And if the date of the contract was there, somebody could file a contract in August for rental, short-term rental in December. And the question is the date of the contract what is the governing factor, or is it the date of the rental period that is the factor? Another way to prove that you had operated short-term rental was if you believed that short-term rental was going to be okay and somebody told you that, and you spent a lot of money and you could prove that you spent money in anticipation of that, that it was okay for you to go ahead because you'd started construction or something like that. Anyway, I would like some clarification of just what is proof and what is the date that is important. Another issue is the complaint and investigation. I know that in my neighborhood, a complaint has been submitted because somebody has advertised for short-term rental, and they've never had short-term rentals in the history of that house. And I've looked in the papers, I've seen nothing that supported, that indicated any investigation was done. And I just wonder if you could explain what the investigation procedure is and when will it start and will it be announced in the paper? Thank you.
Thank you. In response, Mr. Williams, we will be having a report from our town manager tonight, and some of the questions that you have, I think, can be updated, and our town attorney might want to weigh in too. Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, I'm Pat Allen. I've lived in Highlands 28 years full time. My comment has to do with noise. I live at Town Place, which is the condominium complex right past the ball field. I've lived there for 12 years, and I've seen a significant change in the noise, becoming louder and louder. I even, in my sunroom, which used to be a screen porch, put the heaviest glass possible, which really cut down on the noise. It's almost soundproof, if you will. Well, in the last few months, I hear these mostly pickup trucks with these mufflers that are so loud. Then there are these little souped up cars with the double mufflers, and it's just really increased. In fact, I even asked my HOA president, had the barrier been disturbed at all? Because there is some change. And he replied, no. So I just think we do have a noise ordinance. I don't know enough about it to address that, what that even means. But if there is something that law enforcement can do, I know they sit here a lot. They sit at the ball field a lot. They sit at the service station. So if there really is an ordinance addressing how loud these trucks are, then I would appreciate it if they could just stop and say, we've got to deal with this and your muffler. But there's definitely a change in what's going on. And I mean, it even wakes us up at night. So we get the motorcycles. We hate those. Everybody hates those. I don't know how you regulate those. I understand the big trucks that go through delivering things, and possibly it's the amount of building that's going on, but it's definitely has become an issue. So I would appreciate your help with that.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other public comment? Hearing none, why don't we now move on to the next item, number 5, and that is to review and approve the agenda. We have a pretty full agenda tonight. I noticed we had 218 pages in the agenda packet, but do I have any changes to or additions to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to, in the interest of saving some time, under 16, which is financial matters, we have the financial policies and auditor recommendations and credit card. If all of those are fine, except for the auditor recommendations, there's 3 of those that are internal town policies that I had some questions on. And rather than take time to do that, I'll try and work them out with Rebecca in the meantime. And if we could just move it to the agenda for next month, if that's okay.
Okay,
Nobody.
that
has
is
any
a pretty
objections.
involved,
There's a lot of stuff.
policy.
That's part of 200
I think
pages.
it's important that we review that, but it might take time.
Yeah.
Okay, any other proposed changes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to,
So moved.
as Commissioner
Yeah,
Pat
to
has requested?
Commissioner Patterson's recommendation.
All right. Have a second? Second, okay. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and signify by saying aye. Thank you. Opposed? Let the record show that we had 3, 4, and 1 opposed. Okay. The next item would be the approval of the minutes for August 30th special meeting minutes. Do we have any changes or corrections to those special meeting minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, unanimous. All right, approval of the September 8th special meeting minutes. Do we have any changes, corrections to those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second. Second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and signify by saying aye. Okay, opposed?
That was my wife's birthday, so I did not
Okay.
attend.
All
this
right.
meeting.
Thank you. Okay, those are approved. Thank you. And then the approval of the September 15th regular meeting minutes. Do we have any changes or corrections to those?
Mr. Mayor, I do have one change addendum, whatever you want to call it, on page 67, number 13, sidewalk engineering proposal.
Correct.
The sentence kind of drops off there. I think it should have said, agreed they would like to go down the left side of the road towards Dillard, Georgia.
Okay,
That was on
for
our,
clarification.
yeah,
Correct.
just
Okay.
continuing that sentence to indicate what actually happened.
Gibby, can you capture that? Thank you. Any other changes?
That was mine.
Okay.
It's okay.
Motion to approve of, with subject to Buzz's change.
Okay,
Second.
second. Very good. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and signify by saying aye. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. And then finally, the September 20th special meeting minutes. Do we have any changes or corrections to those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
I was gonna say,
All
I
in
think
favor?
Buzz and I might be the only people that were there. Were you there? Oh, you were there.
No, I don't think I was there, but I read the minutes.
Okay, all in favor, please indicate by raising your hand, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That's unanimous also. The next item would be reports, and starting with the mayor's reports. Let me just give an overview of several things that I've been involved in. One, I went to the Western Regional Planning Commission several weeks ago, talked to one of their staff people who works with DOT. I described to them the project that we were considering and working on with the sidewalk going out 106, indicated that we were actually coming up with conceptual drawings and could proceed to actual construction documents if the process goes forward. This person indicated and was very interested that we were going to get private funding and possibly town funding. And her response was, rather than working with DOT, and I love my DOT colleagues, that she believes there are a lot of grants available, and that if a community puts a shovel-ready project forward with those kind of supports, that there are grants out there to help fund such a thing. So I'll keep you posted. That's just an initial response. Now we'll continue to work and see how those grants could be secured if we do move forward with that project. And we're anticipating, Josh, a conceptual proposal at our next board meeting, possibly from the engineering company with the sidewalk. Possibly. Okay. All right. Very good. Other thing I visited the Macon County Board of Commissioners, had a joint meeting with the Macon County Board of Education last Tuesday at the Franklin High School Fine Arts Building. And I wanted to go there. I wanted to see the architect's schematic design for the new Franklin High School. But there were two things that really related to the Highlands School. One was the pre-K program. Folks were requesting, the Board of Education, kind of a clearance to move forward with the architectural design of what a pre-K program facility would be here at the Highlands School. And they had a discussion of how to fund that. And then the other item that was on the agenda was the replacement of the soccer field, the natural turf with a synthetic turf. They've had problems with drainage over the last few years, especially with the high amounts of rain going from an average rainfall of about 97 inches to 120 or 130 a year. Jeff Weller was there. He had been involved in the soccer program, and his architecture firm has been involved in that soccer field in the past. And the county commissioners came to the conclusion that they would consider bids from professional companies that specialize in this type of installation of synthetic turf. And the provision would be they'd have to submit a bid for the actual installation, the drainage concept that would mean that the field would drain, and also they'd have to have a guaranteed warranty on the project. So I was really gratified that they're wanting to move forward with those projects. Not that we're really involved in the school, but it benefits this community.
At the school or Zachary Field?
No, not at
The school.
Zachary. It's at school. The new soccer field they did about a decade ago. I was real pleased that that the folks here in Highlands, Hillary Wiltz of the Board of Education was there, Jeff Weller was there. I was really pleased with the decisions that the county commissioners made. I want to also thank Jimmy Tate, a Highlander who has served for many years as the Macon County chairman of the commission. He will be going off public service at the end of this year after the election. And he's really represented the county well, the best interest of the county. And he has also been an advocate for the Highlands Plateau. So his leadership will be missed, but I know he's off to some things he's been wanting to do now for many years. Other thing I want to do is remind everyone to get out and go vote. The early voting is now underway. I will just tell you, I'm an advocate for the voting the referendum for the 1/4 increase in the sales tax. I think that'll benefit the school system and other areas of the county. So I'm for that. Just wanted to let people know. And then the fire department. We've been talking about doing a tour. We're getting very close to that fire department no longer becoming a construction site and becoming operational. And within days or weeks, we'll be taking possession of that facility, and we will have an open house and a tour that will be announced. And then finally, I'll be out of town starting tomorrow until Wednesday, but I'll be back in the office on Wednesday morning. So with that, I will now turn it over to the commissioners for their committee reports or any comments. Commissioner Steeler.
Yeah, I have a recreation report. Recently, we received a large anonymous donation that's to be earmarked for a new playground. And so moving forward, I think what we decided to do is I'm going to head up a committee, and I'm currently forming that committee of young folks in the community, and some part-time residents, some full-time residents. And Lester's going to be a key part of that committee as well. And what we're going to do is spend the winter trying to come up with plans and ideas and just kind of brainstorming ideas, something that we can take to the rec committee and ultimately the board. And then once spring comes around, we'll kind of hit the ground running to try to fundraise even more money. So right now we have about $100,000 for a new playground, and we're going to be looking at all kinds of ideas about how we can improve what we have and or replace what we have, and just create another asset in the community here. So that's a main thing that came out of the rec committee meeting this month.
Brian, is it on the same footprint? You're just replacing?
Well, I mean,
stuff, or
yeah,
you
with
don't know yet.
we don't know yet, but I would say right now, I'd say we'd use the same footprint. Or if we could expand somewhere, so there'll be more info coming on that.
And Commissioner Steeler, I appreciate you heading up that initiative. It could
Well-
really be a very special recreation site once we get the funding. So thank you so much. Mr. Haynes.
The Presbyterian Church is going to have lunch on November the 6th to raise money for the emergency council. And it's open to all the churches after church. And Jay, I wanted to ask you one question. A lot of my questions are like Dr. Williams, but I was wondering if you, Jay, I was wondering if you have any written opinions from any of the attorneys that you shared with Brian or Amy. I would like written legal opinions on short-term rentals. I would like to see them also. The mayor and Josh say they don't have anything, and I wanted to ask you if you did. You don't have to answer now, but if you have it, I'd like to see it.
I don't think I have any opinions that any of them have written. No.
Do you have any communication from the lawyers that,
Oh, yeah, we have lots of communications, but it's not in the form of opinions.
right, well, the mayor and Josh have shared everything with me that they have. If you have something that's relevant, I would like to see it also. I'm trying to learn. I think there are a lot of questions out there, and I look forward to what you and Josh have to say.
Okay. Any other reports from the commissioners? Hearing none, let's now move over to the town manager's report. Mr. Ward.
Well, I'll start with the short-term rental comments that were made. We have been receiving a few complaints, concerns, however you want to word those. We are looking into those, and those will be looked at on a case-by-case basis. Right now, Michael Mathis and myself have been working with the staff at Granicus, which is a software company that we have hired to track the short-term rentals. It is not fully online at this point, so it will be hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks. They had a number of pieces of data that we had to provide them, and they have to put that into the system to be able to give us the information that we need to track the short-term rental. So right now we have created a list, and again, looking case-by-case basis. Once we get that software up and running, then we'll be looking at the histories on each of these properties, and we'll know a little bit more about them. And then at that point, if we don't see a history, we can ask for the information that we need that is proved for the short-term rentals, you know, in the past. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Again, we're not ignoring any of those concerns or complaints. We're just simply logging those, taking a look at them, getting familiar with the locations, and then we will be, you know, using the software to track those and get the information we need, hopefully over the next few weeks when we get online with that. So again, that's something that it's not going to happen overnight. I know that we adopted the ordinance. We have set September 15th when the town board approved those amendments. And that will be the date that we're looking for, which is operation of the short-term rental prior to that date. So hope that answers those questions. The mayor mentioned fire department. I was down there this morning. They're putting flooring in all over the fire department. It's looking very good. The cabinets are going in. Some of the appliances are going in. They're starting some cleanup. Heat and air people are in there. Heat's working in the floor system. It was very cold outside, as anybody knows that walked out this morning. I walked in and it was warm. I said, we've got heat from somewhere. And the floor heat is incredible. I'm so glad we went with that. It's going to keep the trucks warm from underneath. And so hopefully within 2 weeks, I met this morning with the head of DR Rentals, and he's looking at about 2 weeks. We want to have a tour for the board as well as the dedication time, which we can plan once we get everything completed. So it's what's going on there at the fire department. The ADA transition plan is almost complete. Michael Mathis has been working hard with our engineering firm to pull everything together inside each building that the town owns, as well as sidewalks, curb cuts, everything like that. And they'll be doing a report in November. Also, we had applied for a grant through FEMA. It's called a BRIC grant that we thought we would apply for at the last minute for the pre-clarifier tank and pump station rehab down at the water plant. We did get notified that we did not get awarded that because it did not meet all the criteria. We did get invited to a meeting, which Rebecca Shue, our finance director, is going to attend, that will kind of help us go over some of the items that we didn't meet, and we'll be able to apply again next year for that and hopefully have a better application. Also, the pre-clarifier tank and pump station rehab will be entered once again into the fall cycle, which was the Division of Water Infrastructure that we received for the Dog Mountain grant, which we received 100%. We will be applying yet again for the fall cycle, and we will not know until February whether we received any assistance with that project. And most of the assistance this fall cycle is going to be in loans, low interest or no interest loans. So hopefully we'll know something in February on that. We'll continue to research. There's a lot of monies out there right now. We'll continue to research other grants that we can apply for that project, since it's top priority. And also last, we had talked about a call center during storm events to help relieve our dispatch that receives a lot of our power outage calls. We had a company that we were going to use. We ended up being a little bit too small for them. And we've got a unique situation here where we have a lot of on-call people that are out of cell service. So we have pagers, we have home lines we got to call, we have cell phones. It just depends on which person's on call, depending on how we get a hold of them. So that company really wasn't going to work for us. So Matt Shue, our IT director, has been working with Warren K, emergency management director for the county, as well as some of his staff, and hopefully setting up a system that we can use actually here in-house with our radios and setting off some tones and things like that. So that's where we're at right now. And Warren and Todd and some of them are helping us down there with dispatch with that as well. So just want to give an update there. And again, wanting to relieve the calls that they get, because when we go into a big snowstorm or hurricane or something like that, they get inundated with calls for power outages with the town of Highlands. So trying to relieve them. So that's what we're working on there. I think that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move now on to the item 8, and that would be the consent agenda. Do we have any questions about what is in the consent agenda?
I had just one question. Under the items, the lost and found items that are going to be auctioned off or something.
I was going to ask you.
You same thing?
Go ahead.
The semi-automatic and the Keltec?
Yeah. Does that just become a thing on state surplus property?
Yeah,
or is there a
exactly. Can
special-
anybody do that?
Yeah.
How does that work? I mean,
We're looking into that.
Yeah.
So if we can't, if we're not able to auction that off, see some things on govdeals.com.net. You can put that it's for law enforcement only. Sergeant Brock is looking into that because of the shipping. I said, I'm not shipping a gun. So it might be something that we have to sell it to an actual
Dealer. Right.
So, but this will give us permission to sell that.
Okay.
dealer.
okay, I just didn't want,
Yeah,
you know,
we'll make sure-
go to the pawn shops and then
I don't want it on-
it shows up at the Stop and Shop.
Okay.
There has to be some things done. We can't just sell a gun to a
Right.
public. We have to run through the background check by state law. But this gives us the authority to get rid of some of these items that are the guns that are in our evidence file or lost and found property. Believe it or not, people do leave their guns up here in restaurants and
I might just melt them down or something.
Oh, well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Oh, and how about the black sword? Black sword. I mean, what the heck is a black sword? That was less than a bathroom too?
No, it was, yeah, I mean, we get some great things. I actually delivered a weapon all the way to Coastal Carolina when I had FBI training. A lady, a 70-year-old lady left her gun in a hotel room.
Well,
So she happened to be going exactly where I was going to training, so I actually couldn't do it.
I just didn't know what a black sword was.
Have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
so moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
Very good. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It's unanimous. All right. The next item will be Mr. Dave Healy of the Highlands Playhouse to provide an update. Dave, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm board president of Mountain Theater Company. Pleasure to be with you here tonight. We have a great story to share with you, but it's not one that really would have been possible without the support that we've received from you, this commission, from the town, allowing us to use the Highlands Playhouse for so many years. So I thought it was only fitting if we started tonight by making sure that you understand we really appreciate that, especially as we begin to move on. Within the last few years, if you don't really know our company, we've done more than just rebrand and change our name. We've assembled a very dynamic, diverse board of directors. We have long-term residents. We have seasonal residents. We have a number of former senior executives in Fortune 500 companies. We have some small business owners, retired business owners. It's a very good group. And we did a lot of work, particularly as bad as the shutdown was when it did happen. We really took it as an advantage. We drove our expenses all the way to zero. Again, thankfully, because we're not paying rent. And then when we were ready to reopen, we invested significantly in the hiring of a new executive artistic director. If you haven't met him, Scott Daniel has over 30 years experience. He started in performing at the age of 5. He's performed all over the world. He got into directing, he got into writing musicals, and then much to my delight, he went into the cruise line business where he had to do that as in the P&L. So he could actually build a program and manage it to a successful profit. So we brought Scott in, we relocated him from Florida. He did well his first year. For his second year, we gave him 2 full-time managers, one in marketing, one in operations. This year, we had over 87 people who were hired and spent their summers with us. We find them all over the country. We audition more than 3,000 people in a year. We bring them here, we house them, and they are all in a contracting basis. And that investment has really paid off. 2022 has absolutely been a record for us. Sales were well above anything we've ever experienced in our 84 years. Just give you one number to think of, that was just from July through our last show in October, over 9,000 people came through into the Highlands Playhouse and saw musical theater. And we have more to go. We're not done yet. We have a program. If you saw the newspaper this morning, it was first announced. We're going to do theater for young audiences. This is a first for us. There's significant research showing that simply seeing live theater benefits students academically, socially, emotionally. In fact, children come out expressing an increased hope in their own future. And we decided that is something that we really want to put our money into. So with the wonderful gift from Mountain Findings and the profits that we made this summer, we do this show in November. We contacted the schools in 4 counties and said it's going to be free to the students. It's field trip day if you will do it. And we have over 800 students coming up, with possibly even going up to 1,000, with a couple of schools still working on details. So we're really excited about that. The schools did have a request though, and that was that we would do that again in 2023, which we said, okay, that's our plan. And they said, do us a favor and change it into the spring, because our curriculum is more far along, our grading is in better shape. It's tough for us this time of year, so we said, okay, which means that instead of doing one in a year, we're going to do one again in 5 months. And that really gets me to why I'm here today and what we're asking of you. We're really excited. We've got about a 50-page agreement that the board of Mountain Theater Company and the board of PAC have worked tirelessly on this summer. We're only probably weeks away from passing it to an attorney to have a lease for us to move there. So our goal right now is to get that lease signed, begin the move probably right after we finish our show Home for the Holidays, which ends on December 31st. We'd start all of our equipment that the PAC wants to use, would move over in January. We would empty the metal building in February, move our offices in March. But we would like to do one more show in April for the students. It would be a big help to us. This is an expensive show that we're going to be looking for grant money to support. So we would vacate Highlands Playhouse permanently and completely by May 31st. So I know our lease really technically ends in November. We're asking you if we can just stay until May 31st and do that last show. Any questions, please?
Move to approve.
Okay. And I would just say the motion would be that we just continue the lease until the 31st of May
That's my motion.
of 2003. Good.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate by raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Look forward to your continued productions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm. All right, the next item on the agenda would be the ham radio tower attachment. Mr. Jim Spencer.
Good evening. I am Jim Spencer, a licensed amateur radio operator. My request is to locate a UHF 440 repeater, ham repeater, up on top of the tower, or up on top of Big Bear Pen on the tower. It will be reusing, as we have discussed, an existing mount down at the 60-foot-ish level that is being abandoned. We would have our own tower climber go up and install it, who's licensed. And then the repeater itself would go in the shack. I will be also helping to identify and clean up the shack, build some shelves, and just generally bring it back into a little bit more current mode. The purpose for this repeater is a couple-fold. First, it helps cover Macon County for handheld use. We are finding that the second use is we're getting several tourists now that are coming up and using our facilities. We advertise that in the ham periodicals and the repeater book and what have you. It will be and is currently linked to the Franklin County repeater. So it ties the whole county together and also drives up traffic and gives someone to talk to. The third and last use of it is I'm part of the auxiliary communications, which is working with Warren Cabe, part of the official support group for them. And this will give us, again, the full county coverage should anything go out with standard communications. Doesn't happen too often, but it has been known to happen. So that's my request. Any questions?
And let me just weigh in. We had a technology meeting where Jim was there. Amy, would you like, or both, would y'all like to say anything about, we worked this out that they would be helping in education?
Oh, yes,
for
right.
ham radio.
So there is a use of amateur radio gear by some of the volunteers, the fire department and other places. So part of what we would be doing in exchange would be offering classes at least twice a year, every other year, I should say, or more frequently as needed to anyone who wants to become a first level licensed ham, which allow them to use that gear.
So let me make sure we understand. You're asking to go on this mounted or a section that's already there.
Yes,
Okay, and you're asking to go free of charge. Is that what it is?
basically, yes, with
And
Training.
then what you're going to do is you're going to provide the service of tying in with the rest of the county. Warren K was the emergency services guy.
Right.
Just like you were talking about, we can't use we have to rely on pagers and repeaters and those kinds of things because of where we are, and this would tie into that. Yes.
Depending, can't be commercial, but for emergency services, yes.
Yes,
So there's
just
a
for
line.
emergency services, right?
It would help. I don't know if it would directly replace, but it would augment.
In the Helm radio tradition has always provided a great service in cases of severe emergency.
Yes.
Guaranteeing communication.
Right,
And you are committed to that.
definitely.
And that can happen when the cell phones go down. I've seen it happen a lot
Yeah.
during hurricanes. So
Mhm.
I move to approve the request.
I'll second that.
So what, I do want to clarify that we didn't have the lease together tonight. We will have it for next month, but he has the equipment and we have the location on the tower available. And so tonight, if we could just give him approval to go ahead and install the equipment, then we'll have a lease that we actually sign next month.
I so move, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Okay, item number 11, in Byro Spark EV charging station presentation, Kay McCann, Director of the Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening, everybody. I'm delighted to introduce the representatives from EnviroSpark Energy Solutions tonight. Let's go over a little bit of background. I know we've been talking about this for quite some time. We all know the number of electric vehicles is increasing and the habits and preferences for EV drivers continue to evolve. The first half of 2021 saw a record increase in EV sales in the US. The latest report by Bloomberg New Energy Finance shows that by 2040, 58% of global passenger vehicle sales will come from electric vehicles. Today's EV drivers need options for charging at home, at work, while running errands, or simply relaxing. Sources indicate the average cost to drive an electric vehicle is typically less than half of what it costs to drive a standard gasoline vehicle. The concept of electric vehicle use for environmental and economic betterment aligns with our missions. So we have been happy to help by exploring and support the availability of EV car chargers. This discussion about the potential for chargers began a couple of years ago. At that time, the mayor and town manager shared that the town had considered the installation of chargers in years past, but had decided against proceeding. And at that time encouraged me to look into the benefits and the potential for the town. After speaking with the local businesses that have chargers and researching companies, our board decided to work with EnviroSpark to apply for grants to support the funding of the project. Next, we coordinated a meeting that included the mayor and Lamar Nix from town, as well as the CEO and Chief Strategy Officer of EnviroSpark and myself. We met by phone and discussed the installation process of the car chargers. Lamar spoke with them about electrical needs, the installation of the chargers, and the metering of electric usage. He also provided them with images of the two identified potential locations on Oak Street and 3rd Street. Around the same time, the chamber worked with EnviroSpark to secure grant funding through the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. The grant is a rebate type grant. And the application called for the installation of 4 level 2 public access network chargers for EV drivers that would be on property owned by the town of Highlands, with the stations being managed and owned by Highlands Chamber of Commerce. Since then, we have provided updates, and Lamar provided you with information on the locations and electrical needs. The chamber has offered the management of the chargers, including providing the grant funds and supplemental funding for the installation, and maintenance, as well as the electric expenses, which we would obviously be paying to the town. Tonight, we have arranged a public presentation from EnviroSpark so that you may ask questions, become more acquainted with the company, as well as the benefits and potential for electric vehicle car chargers. So I'll turn it over now to Colin Kelly and Daniel Bullock from EnviroSpark Energy.
Good evening. Can y'all hear us?
Yes.
Very
Now, I have a presentation that I'd like to share. Unfortunately, I can't share my screen on the Zoom link currently. Would that be possible to allow?
Try it now.
And we are live. Perfect. Okay. So, as Kate mentioned, thank you, Kate, for that introduction. We are EnviroSpark Energy. I'm Colin Kelly. I am a marketing specialist and data analyst on a team. I believe Daniel's also on the line.
Hey, yeah, Daniel Bullock, Director of Business Development here.
Yeah, and we just wanted, we have a very quick presentation. I didn't want to take too much of your time, just an overview about us as a company, our electric vehicle chargers, a few of the benefits of placing them in your town, as well as just further information on the proposed sites and locations for the chargers, and a little bit on the rebate program as well. So who we are, EnviroSpark Energy, we are an Atlanta-based EV charging solution company. So we specialize in site acquisition, design, engineering, construction, long-term maintenance, operation, all the above, all bits and pieces of putting electric vehicle charging in the ground. We're a mission-based company where our goal is just to make electric vehicle ownership as accessible as possible through the deployment of charging infrastructure. And so since our founding in 2014, we've installed over 4,700 charging stations across the country, accounting for about 3% of all public charging available in the country as of earlier this year. So why having EV charging in your community? Well, as Kay mentioned, this is the first year that EV sales in the US have crossed over 5%. I believe the last quarter was 6% of new car sales were electric vehicles. So we're seeing that the EV revolution is here. With reliable EV charging in your community, you both show your commitment to sustainability, give your residents the option, and provide an increasingly necessary public amenity to your residents and visitors to the town. And so why EnviroSpark? So our team, again, our sole focus is electric vehicle charging. Most installers are just local general electricians. All we do, all we live and breathe is EV charging installs. So we handle every piece of design and construction timeline, employing our in-house certified general electrical contractors, as well as we do the post-installation operation and maintenance of the chargers that end up in your community. So we are able to remotely monitor the stations to make sure they're up and running, as well as if there's anything wrong, our phone number will be on the charging stations themselves, and we will be able to help and troubleshoot the charging stations. The way our charging stations work, currently, our stations have a QR code on the front of the station. All you need to do is take out your phone camera, point it at the charging station, click on the QR code, and it'll bring you up to our web app. The web app collects real-time utilization data from the chargers, from people plugging in, accepts all major credit cards, Apple Pay and Google Pay. It works for all electric vehicles. Teslas, they do need an adapter in order to use the charging station, but every Tesla, I believe, comes with the adapter to use it. And then reiterating that we provide full technical support and full maintenance service for these stations. To get more specific, so as Kay mentioned, we've met Daniel and I have been on a few calls where we've discussed potential locations for the charging stations. The two locations that were proposed were at the corner of 2nd and Oak Street, and on 3rd Street, a little bit south of Spring Street, I believe in front of, around the corner from the angler shop. But at each location, the proposal was 4 level 2 charging stations. This is a picture of the hardware that would be placed there. The level 2 stations have the ability to have a power output of 6.7 kilowatts per hour, which is roughly 25 to 30 miles back on a given electric vehicle each hour of charging. Since the town is looking to purchase outright, it is up to the city how they want to charge people to use them. Typically, we do roughly $2 per hour to cover the electrical costs and then some, and operational costs. But again, if the town wants to do it as a free amenity to visitors and residents, they are open to do that as well. Was there any questions so far?
I had a quick question. You say you provide tech support. That
Yes.
would be to the town of Highlands or the chamber or to the consumer?
To the consumer. So our on the charging stations themselves is very tiny in here, so you can't see it. It has both our phone number and our email. We are able to respond both phone number, a phone call, or email to help drivers in real time with support on the charging stations.
Okay, thank you.
And yeah, of course. And then we also provide educational materials to help with that can be given out at the town center with the information about the chargers as well.
So with the level 2 charger, if someone pulled in and they had a low charge on their vehicle, they wanted to go back to another town, looking at the 25 miles to 30 miles per charging hour, does that mean that they would have to maybe stay at that charging station for several hours to build up enough charge to make up from one town to another trip?
So yes. So the level 2 charging stations are typically they're less so for the town to town travelers and but more of community use. We've also quoted with the potential of doing fast chargers in these locations as well.
Right.
But the current proposal is these level 2 ones with the lower charge rate. Since the available rebate program funds level 2 charging stations.
And I think we had a conversation, if you wanted to go to the high level charger where somebody could get a full charge, let's say in 45 minutes or 30 minutes, you're talking about a charging system that is much more expensive than what's being proposed here, correct?
That's correct.
Upward to 50 to 80,000 a unit?
Correct. Yeah, you're looking at, I think the one that we had proposed right around 45,000 for the unit.
Okay.
That's if it's bought outright. Is there another business model that's not a outright buy?
Yeah, we do have our own lease option where we could, with what we've done with similar cases with the fast chargers is a lot of times it'll be splitting the cost of the charger and then usually some sort of revenue share option there.
And my other question, and I think you sent out some materials and it was in there, following certain options. If you set up your station, what is the commitment time, if you will, the lease time for operating these charging stations? Was it 5 years? Or how long, if you set it up, how long should we expect that station to be in place?
Yeah, good question. I mean, the stations, the durability, I mean, they'll last, even exposed to the elements for, I would expect at least 10 years. They're built to withstand the weather. In regards to If you're looking like for a term for the lease agreement, our term is usually 10 years for that.
Okay.
When the Public Works Committee met, my understanding was this was going to be a chamber project. And the Public Works Committee didn't have any objection to the chamber going ahead with coordinating with Lamar and Josh. Is that right, Brian?
That's what I mean, that's my take.
Yeah. I have just one more information slide of just information on the rebate program and the subsidies available for this. We continue fielding any further questions after, but we, on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, we've been approved for a rebate program through the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality through the Volkswagen settlement for a rebate for level 2 charging stations where it's up to $5,000 per charging port. If it was for both projects, that would 8 chargers times 5, that would be up to $40,000. However, there is a maximum rebate amount of $25,000 per applicant. I just got updates earlier today from the program manager of this rebate program, where they're ready to approve. They've already approved it and are ready to move forward with a document and sign and everything. Once we've kind of decide on 2 paths forward regarding the subsidy program, where we have the option to go ahead and move forward with both charging sites at once and then splitting the maximum amount of rebate at $25,000 between the 2 projects. So it'd be $20,000 going to one project's cost and then $5,000 going to the other costs. And once the project's completed, that'll be rebated back to the Chamber of Commerce. Or the other proposal would be to move forward with one project and receive the $20,000 rebate on that one. And then once that first project is completed and we've received the initial rebate for that one project, then we'd be eligible. We wouldn't have to worry about the maximum of $25,000 per rebate. Per rebate or per applicant, since that rebate's no longer outstanding, and we could apply for that second rebate of $20,000 for a total of $40,000. I just flat out asked the program manager how risky that option is, since we'd have to reapply once the first project was already completed. He said there's no guarantee of funding remaining when we apply for that second project. So there's a high risk that we would only be able to get that initial $20,000 versus the guaranteed $25,000 of the first option. But yeah, it took me a while to understand the idea of the outstanding rebate, but per applicant. But let me know if there's any questions regarding this funding.
I want to get back to the contract and the level 2 chargers. And,
yes.
and I've been reading about this emerging electric vehicle industry. Seems like there's a lot of changes in technology and so forth. You got a level 2 charger. What happens if there's a new technological breakthrough that really makes those dinosaurs? How do you upgrade? Because we've made a commitment, what's built in to keep these stations current? Because, my concern is that we put them in, people use them for a short period of time, and then they find other ways, and these are just sitting there underutilized. So what's your response to that?
Sure. Yeah, good question. So yeah, with the technology, if there are new stations, better ones that are coming out. I mean, if it's the same electrical circuit, if they're going to take, like these do a 40 amp circuit, it's as simple as swapping the chargers out, the actual hardware out. These chargers, though, can also be, for these particular ones, the software can be upgraded on those remotely because they do have a cellular connection. So if there's better software coming out, those can be that can easily be upgraded. And then again, the hardware, the plug is universal. So I'm not expecting the plug to change in the future. But it could just be swapped out. The hardware could be swapped out if there was a better functioning station.
So what is the request, Mr. Mayor? Is the chamber asking for permission to proceed?
I believe so.
Okay, so we just have to give them permission to go at their expense in coordination with Lamar and Josh. Is that all we have to do today?
Yes, except we are also committing to parking spaces that are basically owned by the town.
Yeah, I think we're committing parking spaces. I think we're also committing to our consumers, our citizens, that we're giving them, that is actually going to be beneficial to them. We're going to get blamed if it's not, regardless of if the chamber pays for it. We're all in this together. And so, we'll both be blamed. Exactly. So I don't think it necessarily that we have to make a decision, but we have to be comfortable with their decision.
I think we have to make a decision regarding allocating public parking spots, two spots that would be dedicated for something other than the vast majority of vehicles on the road. I have some very serious concerns about this. I think somebody's very wise gentleman said something to me a couple of weeks ago, and it went something to the effect of municipalities have never supported gas-powered vehicles, and they never built gas stations. We have not supported private personal transportation options. That's been something that the retail market has done. And I'm all for this if the retail market wants to get involved. As far as taking town facilities to do this, I'm not in it at all, period. I've done a little bit more history on some of this, and of course I've made my thoughts known in the past. As far as upping the charging stations to the high level things, U.S. Department of Transportation says currently hybrids on the market, hybrids, not EVs, but things like Priuses, which we've got a lot of them, do not work on the high speed chargers. They'll work on the level ones and the level twos. And when you're telling me you've got to be hooked up for an hour to be able to get to Franklin, but you're not going to get back, sell it to somebody else. I'm not in it. How long does it take? I mean, people driving up here from Atlanta, we know what the range of these things are. When they come up here from Atlanta, if they haven't stopped along the way, which they probably won't because they're anxious to get to Highlands, they're going to be dead on zero when they get here. And on a level two, we're looking at between 4 to 10 hours to get up to 100%. Of course, they're saying, just charge it to 80. You can do a quick charge to 80 because, let's see, it's like 2 hours to charge to 80%, but it takes you so much longer to go from 80 to 100. It doubles or quadruples the time. Correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen. I don't know. I mean, there's just, to me, it's a feel-good thing. Oh boy, this is great. maybe down the road in 10 years, when the vast majority of people are driving these things, I might feel differently. At this point, I think if Spinks thought it wasn't a good idea, obviously, they didn't install electric vehicle chargers when they redid the gas station. None of the gas stations around here have electrical. They haven't installed for their people that don't come in to pump petrol. They haven't installed electrical charge. Nobody's installed electrical chargers except OEI and Thomas up on the hill. And I think that was a private parking spot. Maybe. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's the buzzer.
No, it was a buzz, I'll recall, it was a public spot that he requested that we allow a charging station to be there. And we also voted that he could put up a sign, no parking except for electric vehicle charging. He never did do that. So it's been kind of a hybrid charging station and a regular parking, spot too. So
I personally think this needs to be the responsibility of private individuals if they want to spend money on their own. If the chamber wants to have one of these in their parking lot, more power to them. If the guy that owns Spinks,
So I would still have to have permission if we wanted to put a couple of them at the chamber, which we have considered.
and I think we might, I would certainly look at that differently than taking up a public parking spot. No different to me than if Wright Square decided as a group, let's put in some electric charging stations. I think that's where they belong. If the business owners want it, let the business owners that have the ability to install them for the benefit of their clients, let them take that responsibility.
And we have talked about putting them at the chamber, just thinking that a resident could come there, a visitor could come there, and using them there. So if that's a potential, we'd be interested in it.
What worked?
So Colin, do you guys put in the transformer banks and everything that powers these stations with the installation?
Yes, yep, we do. We do full turnkey.
Yeah, and I will mention that I discussed the moving if we did change locations for the charging stations with the program manager earlier today, and he said we would be able to do that and still claim this subsidy program. And I will mention that this subsidy a few years down the road, if waiting for a higher adoption for EVs, these programs won't be around. So this is this funding options available this year.
That's certainly understandable.
Let me bring this up. Let's say Wright Square, where Josh, we have parking requirements per store and so forth. If charging stations were being placed there, could we still not count that as meeting the parking requirement, even though they were being used for charging?
We no longer have parking requirements on our multi-use complexes in town.
Well, there will still be parking spaces, so I would assume that obviously we would continue to count those toward the overall parking, needed, required for the development. The same as the chamber or anywhere else.
All right.
Could I ask Lamar if we have the capacity to do it at the chamber? Will the electrical system support it there, Lamar?
The chamber is.
Okay.
Right square.
I do have two friends with Teslas and they think there's a need for more charging stations. I don't have one.
And where do they live?
I live in Highlands.
And do they have charging stations at home?
Yes, sir, they do.
Why do they need them in town? They can't get from home to town and back?
They didn't say that they personally needed them. They said they believe there's a need for more charging stations in town. That's all.
Sure.
Well, and I would say this.
I ride a horse that needs more hitching.
going back to the STR issue, you know, some folks that will be able to continue operating the STRs, maybe in those private residences, they should put in the 240, 220 outlet that would facilitate
That's a great come on.
a visitor plugging in.
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead. Sure.
Sure, thank you. Hi, my name is Tom Paquette. I've owned a Neat since 2015. In Atlanta. There already are a large number of people up here who own electric vehicles. And sadly, there's only one public charger in Highlands. Now, I've spoken with the mayor, I've actually spoken with Spence. There's only one public charger, and that's over by the Ugly Dome. That's it. So that charger is actually iced a lot. That people are just parking their cars in there. So if you have but part of the dilemma is that there's a lot of people from Atlanta, there's a lot of people in Atlanta who have electric cars. And they'll come up here and there's no place for them to charge. That's part of the problem. One of the other dilemmas that I've spoken with a few people about is that if you want a DC fast charger, the closest DC fast charger is Asheville. So that's kind of it. And Franklin just installed one day.
Duke Energy did. Duke Energy did for them.
Right, but I think they did it through the North Carolina thing. But there is a growing need for this. There is a growing need for chargers. People are coming up from that answer from other areas to get charged. That's one of the reasons why I came here. Is I could provide any professional group. You know, I've been driving since 2015. So
And haven't had an in-town charger since then.
I'm sorry.
And have not had an in-town charger since then.
Well, the Ugly Dog has actually had a charger for quite a while.
I mean, that you use. You just said it was iced most of the time, so you don't get to use it. You don't use it.
Many of the people who live here, we have chargers at home because it's our only alternative. But if someone is coming up from Atlanta, you know, there's really nowhere to charge. So this actually is a need. It really is a growing need.
I agree that it's a growing need. I just don't think it's a municipal problem. I think it's a private entity scenario where if someone were to buy an eighth of an acre in town and set up 15 chargers, that's their business model. You pull in, you charge, you pay whatever the going rate is, and you go your way. My problem is I don't think this needs to be a municipal problem. It needs to be a business, private entity scenario.
So would you guys entertain simply changing the location and then we could put it at the chamber? Collins already checked on it. We won't lose our grant.
No problem.
To a certain extent, I see it as a municipal problem. Partnering with the chamber, who is the business in aggregate, that's exactly who you're saying should be doing it. The businesses, a business. The fact, part of the problem is when you have small, I mean, why do we have an electric system? Because they wouldn't bring us electricity. So we had to start our own. So sometimes the government has to step in and say, okay, this is actually a need. Okay. Somebody hasn't stepped up and started it. And if we're going to wait for that, the need is just going to grow. Sometimes you have to as a community say, okay, this is something we need. Is somebody going to step up? Nope, nobody raises their hand. So what are we going to do? Okay, well, we just won't let it go. It is a need. And the chamber has stepped up to say for their members, it's a need. Yeah. You know, I have a problem with having to sit there for 10 hours so I can get back to Atlanta, but
Well, that's what you get when you buy the thing.
exactly.
You buy the
But-
horse, you get to
but
go
you're
just
buying-
as far as
but-
it'll take you.
But you're
And then you have to feed it.
You're-
You know, we
you're
have
buying,
horse-
you're
we have
buying
horse
it, you're
draws
buying it for
for
other
gasoline.
reasons.
Yeah. I will also say that so we install in all different types of places. We do public municipal work. We've installed 3 or 4 different places in the city of Dunwoody, Georgia, city of Atlanta, Savannah, as well as local restaurants, recreational areas. And what we find is we're able to, from the utilization data we get on these chargers, is people use them very differently from gas stations, where if you're parking in town, you're going to be in town, you see chargers there, you'll plug in for the hour or 2 that you're in the downtown area. Whether you're going shopping, whether you work there, you're able to get those certain miles back from those hours that you're in town. And so we find that a lot of people end up doing those 1 to 2, 2 to 3 hour charge sessions more often and more frequently than those longer ones. And if you're able to get those as an amenity when you're downtown, that's an option for you that will be able to keep you suffice for that day and for the rest for your day-to-day while you're in town. And I know a member of our organization who goes to Highlands a lot, he drives a Tesla as well. And part of what brought us into this conversation was him also seeing the lack of charging in the area and seeing it as a need and something he would 100% take advantage of when he comes to Highlands as well.
Think about
Drives up here and he can't get home.
Well, I mean, there's also, again, this is a subsidy program for level 2 community charging stations. Along with this, North Carolina is with the federal government investing in fast charging stations along the interstate highways. The plan is at least a station every 50 miles. And so that funding will be able to help people and their range anxiety going to and from here to Atlanta, here to all other cities, while this is just the ability to have these stations have this amenity for people day to day in town.
What's the deadline on the grant?
Deadline on the grant, basically for the grant funding, it's available until it runs out. When we accept the grant funding, we have 1.5 years to be able to complete the project. Again, if we accept the grants, get rolling on the construction process, it will not take nearly that long to get the charger in the ground. But the main concern timing wise would be the amount of grant funding left in the program.
think about municipal sticking their toe in broadband because we couldn't get anybody to come here. If you wait for somebody to get a business model to make it work, your small communities are never going to have it.
Well, but I don't know what so I don't know what would this charger cost if you were just to buy it outright? Like what would be I guess what I'm getting at is like where Buzz referred to a gas station. I don't think a gas station would want electric chargers. One is because they don't have the room for multiple cars to be parked there all day. And 2 is I don't know what the return on the investment would be, how long it would take to make up the cost of the charger. But in this case, the chamber's paying for it. So well, it's an interesting thought, Buzz, what you brought up. I see it as it's just an amenity. I think for the community, I think it's a good thing. I would be in favor of them.
And I frankly don't have a problem with where they are. we know we don't have as much of a parking problem as people think we do. They just want to park in front of the store. Okay, so
There's no denying that.
the rest of the time, down there on Third or wherever it is, nobody parks there. 99% of the time. So I don't see that as taking up a parking place. Nobody's going to be doing that anyway, because they're not located in front of stores or on Main Street or any place like that. They're off where people would have to actually know about them. And it just gives them a parking place that they're not on Main Street now. They're gonna have to walk a little bit. But people buy electric vehicles for a number of different reasons.
And I relate to what Amy's saying, that, like broadband, underserved communities, sometimes you have to prime the pump. It gets back to my question about lease commitment. I can see we put these in and they're a bust. People don't use them because of the time. That could happen. Or people could use them and say, man, this is great. We want more and more. When we make a commitment to EnviroSpot, do we have any kind of flexibility after so many years if it's not working, saying we want to go back to just regular parking spaces, or the other side, can we expand?
This is the commitments from the chamber. All we're committed
But
to
our
is space.
commitment, Amy, is that if we dedicate a public parking space, our property, we're in it with the chamber
I know.
by providing the real estate.
But it's not a money thing for us so much.
No,
What's the lease term?
Well, they were buying outright. Is that right,
I
Kay?
thought you got,
The lease is on the really expensive fast charge.
right, but I mean, is it a 10-year project?
On the fast.
Yeah.
charge.
Is that the level 2?
No.
What's the
No,
level
Level
2?
two is not, the fast charger, I don't know what
it's a lease on the level 2, 5 years.
The fast chargers are level 3.
Right.
Yeah, level 2 is typically the same. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a slide in appendix that shows the different kind of business models we have in place. I know in our previous conversations we've discussing the Chamber of Commerce buying them outright, but again, we also have our lease option. It's the 10-year lease commitment. There's also another middle range option of a 5-year commitment, but it's as a service where it's just a monthly fee for operational costs. So similar, but just a different and just a shorter term lease on that option.
run the financial analysis on it, and with just a minimal use, we can cover the expenses for having them there. So, and the lease and paying for the electricity and all of that, so.
For 10 years or 5?
It was the buying out the outright option.
That's what we had talked about with the level 2. We couldn't afford to buy the $80,000.
To 3.
And I think that's their decision. It's their money. It's their decision. All they're asking for is some space. And they're not asking for space on Main Street. They're asking for space that's essentially minimally used. I don't have a real problem with this. And I understand, let the market dictate what goes in when and where. But sometimes the market for places like this just isn't going to work in a timely manner. I think it's actually a plus that a small town would want to go electric vehicle. As a community, we're making a commitment to our environment to go an electric vehicle. That would be my take.
Okay.
And if it helps, we could start with the one site, see how that goes, and then if there's a need, do the next site.
And maybe lose $5,000.
You won't get grant funds.
Yeah, you lose $5,000. So
Can I ask a clarifying question about the electricity? Are we talking about 4 parking spaces in each spot?
2.
2.
or just two? Because I'm reading 4 of charge.
It was originally 4.
Each station.
My understanding is 2 charging stations at each location. Everything will be flowing through the transformer bank into the electrical setup that these gentlemen will do. And work will be no different than any other electrical customer. The only expense to the town will be transformer bank that it takes to supply electricity to the charging station itself, which the construction of it has to have its own set of dry transformers to further break that down, is my understanding.
What's your estimated cost on that?
So that, what the voltages are, what the amperages is, we didn't get that very specific. Discussion.
Is there a dead base minimum or a dead base maximum? So it could be $50 or it could be 50,000. That's where I'm going.
Lamar, did he not, he said they do the transformer.
That's the drive transformer within the station.
Okay,
The pad mount, 3-phase transformer, or the pole mounted transformers, that's on the utility.
okay.
They can be very difficult, if not possible, to that.
You don't know.
So that, in other words, you're saying that there is a financial commitment from the town, not just a parking place. I thought you were putting them there because he already had the,
We have 3-phase power, but 7,200 volts has to be broken down to a usable voltage that they can use within the station itself.
Did you see those things down there in Franklin
Three-phase
when
power.
we went down there for that?
It just so happens that right now.
Sitting back off there. They're bigger than all 3 of these friggin' tables put together. And they got huge transformers to be able to run these. How many transformers?
we got space for those? We got
Don't
space for the
ask
trans-
me. Don't ask me. They're just
I mean,
monsters.
I shifted from you to Lamar. Do we have space for the transformers? If those spaces,
Easy to work with.
okay.
Are these going to be the transformer types like they've got down in Franklin at the town hall? I mean, I know those are level 3.
That's a different animal. Level 2s are quite smaller with their electrical needs. And once we get into the details, then I can determine the size of the transformers to make the bank or the size of the pad mount to make the bank.
So we need to do some more work to determine exactly what our costs would be for these 2 sites. Is that right?
Yeah, but it's nothing compared to the overall cost of the station. Ours is like.
Power goes out, who do they complain to? That the car's stuck.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Charge the board and then they can just unplug it and go ever how far.
Get the Clayton and they're
Just down- Exactly. They get more mileage downhill, literally. They can get to Franklin and they can charge for an hour in Franklin, but they might not get back on that hour in Franklin.
I get more mileage
This-
downhill in my gas car.
I get more mileage downhill on my bicycle. There
I
you
hate to
go.
resort to this, but it seems to me like we might need to have Lamar work with the Spark people and come up with a more concrete plan before a final decision is made.
Let me ask one more question, and this is probably not politically correct to ask, but is the 25,000 or the $20,000 coming for our transformer, or is it coming for your buying the machine?
It's for the project, for the actual machine part of it and the installation.
Okay, so the transformer would be on us.
Yes.
You know, it's something that we could go forward to pay you guys back for that as a part of the project. You know, we can look at that, but then again, we have to know what those numbers are.
Right.
See if it fits in with the funds that we have.
Yeah.
And like I say, I hate to kind of push this can down the road, but maybe Lamar does need to meet with the Spark people and Public Works folk maybe need to meet and come back and say, this is how much the transformers and what we're gonna have to pay
Right, what our commitment is.
and our commitment.
Can we ask how many amps the chargers are gonna be?
It said 40.
Oh, they're 40 amp?
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and we're happy of, yeah, that should be 40 amp, not 30. But and we're happy to schedule a meeting in the next week or so to talk about the transformer as well as the Chamber of Commerce relocation, if that's something that was still a consideration. But yeah, we're happy to help. Our goal is just to make EV charging as accessible as possible. We want to be a resource as well as be able to just guide along the process and help on the electrical side, operation side, help with the long-term maintenance, and coordinate with the subsidy program, since the opportunities for this state and federal funding won't be here for long. But yeah, I appreciate y'all's time to discuss this, and again, we're happy to continue this conversation.
Okay. Do we have a consensus that we need to get Lamar, the Public Works Committee,
Get some more info.
get more information and bring it back as soon as possible? Lamar, is that possible with you?
I just need to know the average, the voltage, what kind of transformer bank you need.
Okay.
The thing said 30 amp, I believe.
But he said 40.
Wait, yeah.
It's a 40 amp.
Charger.
I mean, Daniel, want to back to, or
Yeah.
32 amp.
It's, yeah, pushes 32 amps to the car, 40 amp circuit breaker. That's required.
So we'll continue this discussion and research and get back with everyone with the report, hopefully next month. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank y'all. Have a wonderful rest of y'all's night.
Thank you. All right. Our next item, number 12, Chamber Lease Agreement, Kay McCann.
It was 45 minutes.
Okay, the lease that we have discussed before, just kind of go back over where we understand that we are. Currently, the town of Highlands owns the building at 108 Main Street that we are currently occupying as the Chamber of Commerce and Visit Highlands NC. The Chamber is a nonprofit membership organization. Visit Highlands NC is the equivalent of a tourism development association that is funded by Macon County. The Chamber currently provides beautification, community events, leadership development, communication, business support and advocacy, as well as support for nonprofits, local nonprofits, more than $250,000 last year. Currently, no rent is charged by the town, and the Chamber is responsible for 100% of the maintenance costs of the facility and grounds. The current lease is for 10 years at $1 per year. The building serves as the community's welcome center, providing area information for 4 public restrooms for residents and visitors alike. It also houses staff offices and conference space that we share with the community. The grounds include a public garden and parking areas. During the past 10 years, the Chamber has invested $300,000, nearly $300,000 into the town-owned facility and grounds. The anonymous donor that gave the property to the town asked that the building be used by the Chamber of Commerce and house a visitor center. The town was proposing that, in our understanding, that it is considering renewing the lease agreement from the current $1 per year in rent to upwards of $43,000 annually in rent for a period of 10 years. The town would not provide any maintenance for the building or grounds, which averaged us nearly $28,000 annually as a chamber expense. Additionally, the town has suggested that chamber assume the cost for maintaining public restrooms in the town square, which is almost $40,000 a year. So all of these total expenses comes to $110,841 annually, or over that 10-year period could be $1,108,413. The chamber proposes, in lieu of paying rent, that we assume more of the town's operating expenses that are non-essential, such as town landscaping. This provides the town with a reduction in expenses and a prudent use of the chamber and Visit Highlands' future income streams. Our two operating budgets are separated in two entities supporting income streams. For these two budgets, our Chamber of Commerce is supported by membership. Visit Highlands NC is a share of the Macon County occupancy tax. The Macon County occupancy tax that helps fund Visit Highlands NC is not a fixed or guaranteed amount. In fact, it fluctuates based on visitor spending in Macon County and the decisions of our county commissioners. Current research models predict changes in visitor sentiment and reductions in travel to mountain areas post-COVID, and currently due to gas prices and the national economy. Travel sentiment went down, 78.1% for traveling over the next 12 months, according to destination analysts. Oxford Economics is predicting a recession in the first quarter of 2023. Travel spending falls roughly twice the rate of the economy in a typical recession. The occupancy tax funds provided by Macon County for Visit Highlands have risen due to visitor spending during COVID and currently provides income that could be used for renting, but this income stream is not stable or guaranteed. The Highlands Chamber of Commerce operating budget is sustained by our memberships and cannot sustain the additional expense of rent and maintenance, even though we have 78% of our businesses as active members. The chamber agrees that the cleaning of the restrooms at Town Square is essential for residents and visitors, and we currently maintain 4 public bathrooms ourselves that are open 5 to 6 days a week each week during the year. Should forecasting models for travel be accurate and a decline or elimination and occupancy tax to Highlands funding occur, having the chamber assume expenses that are non-essential and without fixed cost, such as the landscaping, makes sense for both parties. In other words, a few less flowers due to future budget constraints is acceptable, but unclean restrooms is a health hazard. The chamber cannot in good conscience sign a lease to assume rent, maintenance of a 100-year-old building and the grounds at 108 Main Street and the maintenance of 2 additional restrooms. We propose the Highlands Chamber of Commerce, Visit Highlands NC, assume the responsibility of the town's landscaping expenses and a renewal of the 10-year lease at $1 per year with the responsibility of the maintenance of the building and grounds to fall on the chamber. We are happy to partner with the town for ongoing expenses that benefit our community as we continue to be good stewards of the funds entrusted to us by our local businesses and Macon County.
Comments and questions?
When we met with you at the Recreation Committee, you had a suggestion that the chamber might landscape the front of the Civic Center. And I thought that was a really good idea.
We have a lot of projects like that we would like to do. We've already taken over some of the landscaping.
Right.
And we are now in charge of all the baskets. The Recreation Center was one of the areas that we would like to get the work actually completed there. As we all know, there's way too many signs right now. But there's other areas in town that we'd also like to work on. We've also talked at the Recreation Committee. We would like to be involved with the playground. You know, our visitors do use that. So there's lots of things that we would like to do and that we're fine with taking over expenses of the town. If you guys are needing funds to help with those expenses, as long as we have the money, we're happy to partner with you. And I felt like we made that very clear in the meeting that we had together just recently, that we do want to do that. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to have that meeting, is so that we can all talk, and we're all wanting the same things. So why not work together? Our problem is that we don't have guaranteed money,
Okay. Okay, let me ask you this question. When you say town landscaping, you're referring to the planters on Main Street in front of the town hall.
All
You're
of
not
that.
talking about the park itself, because we, have a contract
Well,
doing that too.
The budget that you gave me, Josh, we talked about what was the landscaping budget. And I think you said it was around $30,000 a year.
Our current town landscaping is 21,000, but now that includes the planters on Main Street, the 2 planters at Town Hall, but that also includes, I think, Town Hall's maintenance, what little trimming and mowing we have around Town Hall and the police department.
Right.
Well, let me just say that if they spend money to bring people into town, the $250,000 marketing grants that goes out to the nonprofits, they ought to have to put some of that money toward giving them the essential services that those people need, that they're bringing into town. You bring me more bodies and then expect me to have to pay for that. Unessential services are great if you have the money. Same way for the town of Highlands. Why are we going to up taxes or up fees or anything else to pay for something that we wouldn't have to pay for if they weren't bringing more people into town? The businesses want them, and I'm fine with that, but they need to pay their way. We already subsidize the garbage collection, the commercial garbage collection with residential. We don't need to be doing it, everything else. And I think we can work out something. If your revenue goes to zero, then obviously we're not going to kick you out. But it is something that at this stage, $40,000 for something that is not ours. Okay. And we shouldn't actually be even providing. We provide, just like you, we provide bathrooms. We just don't clean. We're not providing those. We're just cleaning them. Well, they're not even our bathrooms. They're the business community's bathrooms. The business community should be doing that. The easiest way to do that is I would never have suggested that you do both, clean the bathrooms and pay rent. But the easiest way to do that is to pay rent. And when the rent is based on what it costs us to clean the bathrooms.
And we agree, they need to be cleaned. We're happy to help with the expenses. It's just for us to sign on a dotted line saying for 10 years, we're going to do this. And we have no idea what our funds will be. I mean, the county could decide suddenly that it all stays in Franklin, and they're going to do a county-wide, and we
think
get
that's
nothing.
something that we'd be open to communication with. Yeah.
We're not gonna hold you to
Would
something
you
if you don't
sign-
have the money.
Would you sign a contract though? And with somebody, that just says, well, we'll work with you if a problem happens. Yeah, I mean, we work together all the time, but I mean, would you as a
Sign a
town
contract that
sign a
says that.
10-year contract knowing that the money might not be there?
Well-
It's just business wise, we just feel like it's not a good choice.
I think the answer is yes. The other thing is you're projecting that there'll be a reduction. If you look at trends like in our sales tax and everything, even with ups and downs in the economy, 10 years, it goes up.
Right.
So,
Well, and it may go up and down. What I'm saying is that's not, we're not trying to kick you out of there or anything like that. We're just, from my perspective anyway, is if you create more cost to the town, you should help us pay for those essential services. We actually shouldn't be even paying for that. The businesses should be paying for that. I had to put a handicap accessible in my business. And I'm not saying that the people on Main Street need to put them in. They don't have the room and everything else. But that's something that the businesses, they want visitors, they want residents to come use their facilities. That's something that they should provide.
And that's what we're saying. We're happy to do this. We got to look at the business side of it.
I know.
And if we're paying for all of the landscaping, which I thought it was about $30,000, and we want to add to it, so it would.
We're not
end up
asking
being
you to
that.
pay for the landscaping.
Well-
The landscaping is non-essential. We can have it as, I mean, if you
So-
look out in the mountains, you don't have to make landscape us too much.
Exactly. So that was the whole point. If it's bathrooms, they have to be clean. We
Right.
don't know that we'll always have the money.
Well,
So,
Well, but
but if
there's a
we're paying
stipulation
for
in the
the
contract.
landscaping, then you still have that much more money in your budget, and it still balances. Whether it's going to landscaping or bathrooms, you have less expense.
no, because if I don't have enough money, I just wouldn't landscape as much.
Yeah, I mean, like,
That's
and
not essentials. Bathroom,
Right,
just
that's why
totally
we're
it's
saying,
essential.
let us pay for the non-essentials, because then if our
But
money
the
goes
non-essentials
down,
may go away, okay? Bathrooms, we're gonna have to pay for regardless.
and we may not have the money.
I'm not saying
But
whether
there'd
you
be a
will, or- but
stipulation
right
in the
now you
contract.
do.
The landscaping doesn't get me excited, and I tell you, like, just the idea of landscaping the rec park, while yes, it would look better. I've never pulled in the rec park and said, man, we need more landscaping here.
We need landscaping, period.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I've never, that's never even crossed my mind. I would rather see us put that money towards the bathrooms.
Well, no, the landscaping, that's a whole, the rec park, that's a whole different project.
Well, I understand
like
that.
the
I'm
playground.
using that as an
But,
example.
and that's why we're saying, it's if we charge you rent, okay, then we automatically have what we should be getting anyway, which is the business is paying for cleaning their bathrooms. I mean, those bathrooms are essential because they're getting cleaned and supplied
I
constantly.
agree.
But
okay?
there'd be a stipulation in that contract that would say if something happens where you don't have the funds, then we would work it.
And I was going to ask Jay, is it possible to put a stipulation in the contract that if there is a significant loss of revenue, there's an adjustment in this rent?
You just said
Absolutely. Okay.
I read the deed to the town for this piece of property. And I think the Coward firm, I think Kim drafted it, but it says in the deed that it's recognized it's a $1.35 million donation to the town.
Yes, it came to
The anonymous donor.
Well, it's named on the deed, so.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. I know, I got it. I know, you're right. I got it.
So that would be my way, is that we get that. I mean, because regardless of what the economy does, maybe we don't have to clean it quite so often, but regardless of what the economy does, we're gonna have to clean those bathrooms.
Amy, I think I certainly agree that the way Kay has stated in the past, there's some things financially that she can pay for and some things she can't.
Right.
Line item kind of things. And I think paying rent is something that no matter who you are, where you are, the money will always allow for rent to be paid. And I think if we charge the chamber a rental fee, and that's it. I mean, I don't think we've never said, we want you to pay rent, we want you to maintain this. And we never had an idea that your proposed expenses would be $110,000 a year. It was always somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40,000, which is our cost, to take care of the bathrooms. What we're trying to do is just offset that cost based on the fact, as Amy says, more people are coming to town. You're drawing people into town. They're using the town facilities, whether it's the bathrooms, whether it's the sidewalks, whether it's the roads, doesn't matter. Maybe they're flushing the toilet 5 times while they're here. Does not matter. It's more people coming into town directly based on the fact that you're bringing them in. Your advertising works. I hate to admit it, but
I'm not the only one advertising.
But I understand that. But rental, a flat rent rate is the absolute, in my idea, the absolute best way to solve this.
See, I disagree
There's
with that.
no
The reason-
quibbling.
the reason is because if you were cleaning the bathrooms, you could pay 100% of that with occupancy tax, correct? The rent for if you're dividing the chamber in the visit and see, then you got to take a portion of that building
Yeah.
that's used for chamber and pay it from member dues. So it
Which we
seems like a
can't
win-win
afford
if
that
you
part.
just take the bathrooms on. Like
And-
that would be it. There'd be a stipulation in there.
And I would like to check with the county lawyer to make sure that that is considered a legit expense. I think it is, but
Yeah.
I would definitely want to check with him to make sure that it is.
And I think that's a win-win because there'd be a stipulation in there. And that's that if you had a financial issue that we would work out another deal. But at the same time, if you're already planning on, like you said, spending $30,000 on
Maintenance.
landscaping. Well, like
Maintenance.
I guess I don't think we need landscaping either. So just, we got bathrooms for 40. I mean, I think we're close. We're
And
kind of
just pay
talking
for
in
the
circles
bathrooms
here.
instead of doing it around the other way.
Yeah. That's why rent wouldn't make sense, because then rent would have to come from chamber members. Part of it.
Well, why
No, I
wouldn't they
think-
come?
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's the way we have it split up because the chamber uses part of that building.
Yeah.
So we have, of course, he's chair of our TDA, so he sees all.
So none of the money that
stuff.
you get from occupancy tax
Is
could go to
totally
this.
totally separate from chamber. They're two different businesses, two different accounts. We hold two different meetings, two different budgets. It's all completely separated. We do not want any of that money mixed in any way.
But so you're right. You need to check with the attorney, make sure that it's a proper use of the money. It does say it has to be promote tourism, but you really can't do anything until you go back and check with him.
Yeah, and I think it is.
It's a loose definition.
So it's not just promote tourism. It's, yes, promotion is part of that, but it also includes, and that's why we can do flowers and things like that, is that you have to provide services, you have to provide, et cetera, once they have arrived. So that's why I think the bathrooms will work, but I would never make that decision without checking with the county lawyer. And we've asked him before about different things, just to make sure that they were legit expenses.
What does our town attorney need to do in the interim? We're coming up on November with the renewal time. What should our town attorney do?
First, you should get a copy of the proposed lease, which I don't have. I need to look at it.
Copy.
We have the old lease.
existing lease.
We have the old lease,
Right.
but we
have a new
have
lease.
not really.
Well,
developed
I'd
the
say, to me anyway, it was a definite thing that you could spend it on rent. Okay, and so that was my way of paying for the bathrooms is having it rent.
Yeah, but I think we can pay for the bathrooms. I
Yeah.
just want to double check on that. And probably I could have the answer within a week, just getting a hold of the county lawyer.
I mean, I don't think it's an essential that we do something tonight, even though
No.
we can month to month until we get this worked out. That's the way most things happen.
I don't think we'll have to go month to month. I think we can get some answers pretty quickly.
I know, but I mean,
And come back
it
to
won't
you.
be till next month that we would be able to do this.
And let me make one observation about the room tax in the visitor centers and everything. This isn't just an issue on how it's allocated in Highlands, Macon County with the laws that were passed and enabling local and enabling legislation. These are issues that are being discussed in Franklin and throughout the state. And I'd like to see the legislature bring some clarity and consistency to it.
You'd have to amend the enabling legislation.
Or the legislature could come back and just have a standard
For the state.
for the state.
They've
For all
talked
the
about that
enabling
before, but it never happened.
It has.
So,
Okay, so what we're gonna, the idea is then that we will consult with, you'll consult with
I'll
the
get a
county
hold of-
attorney.
right?
Our attorney will look at the lease and then we'll come back with a proposed lease. Okay,
That works.
okay, thank you,
Right,
Jay.
thanks.
Appreciate it. All right, The next item is item number 13, Code of Ordinances and Amendments. Mr. Michael Mathis.
Thank you, Mayor. So on Wednesday, September 28th, the Land Use Committee met to discuss some concerns. Of the topics discussed, the following are suggested code amendments. The first one is grubbing and burning. The second one is noise ordinance. I added this memo on both of them. I just did one memo for both. So if y'all want to start with grubbing and burning, so presented before you were two options for that related to the grubbing and burning within the town limits. One option prohibits burning entirely, except for within designated structures like a fireplace or a fire pit. The other option prohibits burning in relation to land clearing.
Okay. And let me respond because I kind of started this whole process. Because as the mayor, I remember a number of years ago, I got a constant flow of complaints about a development just outside the city limits. But part of the parcel was in the city limits, but they were clearing the land, and they were burning all the tree logs and everything, and it went on for months. Just recently in a neighborhood, again, another home site was being developed, and the contractor decided to burn all the logs, and it went on for weeks. And people in the neighborhood were saying, it's like we've got this never-ending smoke. And then other places like Waynesville have addressed this too, that this used to be the tradition for clearing land for development, but because of the densities and communities and everything, it becomes kind of a health issue and a nuisance to people that are living in proximity, those kind of practices. So that's what I wanted to address, the grubbing policies. The idea of burning leaves, as long as that's safe with the property owner, I see that as different. You burn, yeah, you might generate smoke, but by the evening, hopefully that's gone and there's no real issue. It's not a continuous
except that
thing.
you do realize that they were burning leaves and they almost burned up brushy face
Well,
10, 20 years ago.
That is an important factor for the homeowner to follow good safety practices.
And all the homeowners around them are the ones that are affected by it.
Okay.
Because of, and part of that was because of the extreme slope of brushy face, because when you have flames, they're pretty close to that slope. But to me, there are other options for leaves. Burning them does nothing except put all that particulates in the air. It hurts the CO, it increases the CO2 in the air, the heat in the air, all those kind of things. Why don't we let them degrade normally? Take them down to the landfill and just put them in the landfill. And burning to me, okay, it gets rid of stuff, but honestly, it does a lot of damage too. And potentially, as we become more dense, it affects not just with smoke and nuisance, but with potential hazards. I think there are other options for leaves and cutting down your rhododendrons or whatever, that you don't have to burn them. Burning is not necessarily a good thing. It puts a heck of a lot of particulates in the air that we're all going to have to start breathing. We all do breathe. If you want to have electric cars because they're better for the environment, burn.
Okay.
Anyway, that's my
understand
perspective.
Your point, Commission. Okay.
Well, my perspective,
I know
since we're throwing
You
out
wanna
perspectives, I personally don't have a problem. I do have a problem with grubbing and stumps and ongoing day in, day out. It never goes out. Pour a little more gasoline on it, just keep it going kind of thing. Kerosene, couple old tires, yeah, whatever works. But burning of leaves, it's a 1 or 2 hour scenario. Yes, you've got smoke. Yes, you have ash. The best wine in the world is grown on the side of volcanoes in ash. So that's.
we're going to go to wine country?
We might. So, having ash is of little consequence.
As long as it's not floating around in the air. It's on the worst air pollution in the world. It's also
Well,
around
Usually,
volcanoes. Lime, brick.
usually
being able
it
to
doesn't
breathe,
float
you know?
around in the air for long. And I think the second alternative where we have the ability, I blew my leaves last week for the first time, and granted, they all came down at once almost. My leaves you could not have put in a boxcar. I am not going to take them to Wilson Gap in plastic bags because I don't own a truck that I can cover them with a thing, because you have to have a cover if you go through town
For leaves, yeah.
for leaves or any other debris that may come off. So
Why
I
you
don't.
just let them decompose on your lawn.
My lawn is my lawn. There's
Lawns
grass.
are nasty little monocles.
Hey, let's not talk about grass like that.
Time to step in, Brian. Come on, help me out here. You got to be able to do something with them. We don't allow people to push the leaves into the.
Well, and commercially,
gutters.
I don't think commercially you're allowed to burn anyway. Can you? Brian, anybody?
Commercially,
like we don't burn at the country club, for instance, but I don't, because I know we're not permitted to.
Well, that's your country club.
So
You got
my
the
point is
equipment to chew
that,
it up
like,
and
if it's a
spit it out.
homeowner doing it, it's a little bit different than someone commercially doing it that has.
I'm just talking about the average homeowner. I'm
Yeah,
not
where the
talking about a
leaves
country
came
club
from
that-
the property, not, this isn't like a stump hole or anything like that.
Exactly. This is taking a pile of leaves. The town will not let you put them in the gutter. Now, unless we buy, as most larger municipalities have tree removal or leaf removal scenarios in the fall, where you push them all out in the street, they come through at 5 o'clock in the morning, they suck them up. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we'll be back next week. Now, we can do that probably at the tune of $250,000, or we can let people burn their brush, or burn their leaves in a safe, controlled manner as is laid out in this other option. You gotta be there. It's gotta be within a certain time frame. You gotta have a way to put it out.
And after the wildfire goes up, brush your face and gets rid of all those big old houses up there, you're gonna say, well, you all weren't there watching that brush fire.
That's right. And
what happens then?
because you weren't there, my lawyer will be in touch. We got to give Jay something to do.
So we've got two options. One option is to ban both burning of leaves and grubbing. The other one is just to ban the practice of grubbing.
Yes, the land clearing, which would essentially be the commercial, maybe a
Yeah.
construction business come in and cut down a bunch of trees for a house site. They need to haul that stuff off and not burn it.
Okay.
I'd be all for that.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion if you'd entertain it.
I'll always entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we go with, I believe it's option 2, which permits open burning of leaves, branches, or yard trimmings originating burned on the premises of private residents, permitted under the following conditions. Those conditions are stated.
I'll second the motion.
Can I ask a couple questions here?
Yes, certainly.
Permitted burning, does that mean you have to get a permit or is it allowed burning?
Don't, Gibby, can you pull that up on the screen so I can see the exact wording of
You have
that?
to get a permit from Reeves.
Yeah, I mean, we don't, as it sits right now, we don't issue the burn permits. I think permitted is just allowable in the way
So the
that's written.
context of that is in that context, that word permitted does not mean they get a permit.
Not from the town, no, just the permitted would be the allowable.
So shouldn't we say in there that they have to get a burn permit from Reeves? Or
And those are issued by the Forest Service, aren't they?
Forest Service, and locally you get it from Reeves?
If it's not already written in there, which it may not be, I haven't studied it, then yes, we can write that in.
Yeah, and they just tell the location in case there was an issue, they would know where to go, I guess.
Yeah, and we could write that in, yes.
all that permit does is cover their
Covers the Forest Service,
the property.
property owners.
Because if you go get a permit and then there's rules on the back that you have to abide. So then if your fire gets out, the Forest Service can then issue a citation. Am I right? Just because you put your name and number and address and all that, that does not come to me. I have no clue.
You don't know when
I
they're
never
burning.
see the permit.
You can even get one online.
You can get one.
Okay, Chief, what is your feeling about burning leaves?
I mean, it's especially like this time of year, we're right on the brink of the same as it was in 2016.
Yeah.
As dry as it is. As long as it's done in the right conditions, I think it's a great thing because it reduces the fuel in case of a wildfire.
Okay.
Around that one person's house.
Everybody's house counts. Yeah, okay.
But we can reinforce
Your
the
other
permitting
question,
the
Jamie?
state to get a state permit.
No,
if
that
it's
was
not in
it.
there.
Okay.
We say permitted burning. Does that mean the actual process of
be
getting a
allowable
permit
burning.
or allowable burning?
Yeah, that
Because
allowable.
there's two connotations there, and I
Yeah.
didn't know which one it
I
was.
would say allowable, change that to allowable. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. And,
With potential amendments,
okay,
allowable and must get a permit.
Yeah, because if I just read this, it doesn't tell me I have to get a permit.
Yeah, we'll add that in there. We'll add that in. I thought it was already in there, to be honest with you. I didn't.
I couldn't find it, but then maybe.
But
So, let me-
non-permitted burning means you cannot burn this. It doesn't mean you can burn this without a permit.
Yeah, we can
So
leave
if you
it.
change the top one to allowable,
Right, you're gonna have to change that one too.
yeah. I think it reads right.
But I think we still can add in there about getting a permit.
But
You can add in there about getting a
yeah.
permit, but
A Forest Service permit.
non-permitted burning, number one, burning of materials other than those specifically permitted in the aforementioned provisions is prohibited the burning of garbage, rubber products, petroleum products, and other materials which produce heavy smoke or fumes, which was not permitted. So that's under non-permitted.
I understand that, and now I would have changed it to allowable in both places.
Somebody called me today and complained about a landscaper blowing leaves in the Mirror Lake. And I said, well, I can't call the police department. You got to call them because you saw it. So, that's not allowed.
Anyway,
No, yeah, no, that would definitely be.
either way you want to do it's fine. I just asked the question. Permitted, non-permitted burning means I don't have to get a permit.
Yeah,
Or I have to get a permit. Permitted can be ambiguous to
Yeah.
somebody reading it.
I mean, I don't have a problem with changing it to allowable and not allowable. The wording did not change from these amendments. It has been existing like that. Because it is in
But are we
black, but
saying
we can change that to
if
allowable.
somebody
That's no
wants to
problem.
pile up some leaves in their yard and burn them for an hour, they have to go get a permit at Reeves?
Mhm.
Mhm. I believe so, Ryan, do you not? Or is it got to be dependent on size? If you're wanting to burn leaves in your yard, do you have to go get a permit from Reeves?
In the city limits now.
Yeah, no, not in, only in outside of the city.
Yeah.
Okay, then you don't have to put it in there. That's why
No,
it's not in
that's what I was
there.
gonna say.
Wow.
We recommend it, do, but
But it's not required.
outside in the county, it is required.
Okay, well, so you say you recommend it, it's not required now. Can we require it? This body writing it in our code?
Who's gonna
That's
issue
something we
permit?
might want to look at or look into.
Same Forest Service.
I thought they had to get one.
Accept our permits.
But you're not gonna really have some either. I mean, unless you go.
But I mean, I see where you're coming from. It. You are burning your leaves and it gets out. Who is going to enforce that? Whether you had a permit or not? Because I don't know that the Forest Service can
I don't think Forest Service has any ability to come on anybody's property except their own, do they?
No.
This is gonna be long.
Or join them.
I thought they had to get a burn permit. That's surprising to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know that they enforce
Difference between state and national.
permitting and permitting and all that stuff inside.
Forest Service is national.
I could make a phone call tomorrow and find out.
We can table this and bring it back in November if you want to, with a little more information. on that.
We need to burn leaves now.
Well, as it stands
November's
right
too
now.
late. We need to come up with a
But
decision.
here
Well,
again,
right now it says you can.
Yeah,
We
you're
have
good right
got too
now.
many damn things down the road. We need to come up with a decision.
Well, I think, but we wanted more information on other issues before we do an ordinance, change it. I think we probably need more information.
Right.
About the permitting and so forth. I'd rather us take their time. Are you willing to withdraw your motion until we can get further information?
And that means you can go burn your leaves today
Yeah,
because
we're not-
unless it's allowed.
Burning is allowed tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
And
Is that
including
Highlands?
rubbing and.
We
So
can
you
put a
everything else.
moratorium
You're
on it.
done.
Okay, you'll withdraw. And we'll come back with more information on this and work with the fire chief to get some definitive.
And we hope it's not 2016 and we'll go up in smoke.
Yeah, we probably should have had you in there, Ryan.
Okay, Michael, let's go to the noise.
So that, yes, the next is the amendment to the noise ordinance. So recently we've received noise complaints from property owners across the town. However, when our officers get to the property and measure decibels, the subject lot is rarely in violation. After reviewing our ordinance, the land use committee suggested reducing the overnight hours from 11 PM to 10 PM. It is believed with the 1 hour adjustment, it will solve some of the noise problems that we have.
Okay.
I do have a couple of comments to throw in here. I agree with Miss Allen completely with the noise. That's a rarity now, come on. With the noise pollution around town. I think where we went with the noise ordinance is a first step. We also talked about reducing decibel levels around town. There's a number of things that I think we could do. We actually, a few years ago, got talked down from enforcing a jake brake prohibition inside the city limits. I don't know if it's that much of a problem, maybe more of a problem where Miss Allen lives because she's got
Going through
a
that
downhill
curve.
slope and a curve. So they're gonna, but I've had them come by Main Street. I'll be back in the back end of my office with the doors closed and I hear them coming down Main Street. There's a number of things that can be done. There are federal ordinances on allowable sound coming out of all motor vehicles when they roll off the assembly line. The federal government has a sound level that comes out the muffler. All these other mufflers, the reason they're being run is because of a lack of willing to enforce federal law. And that's across the board. I'm not necessarily picking on our constable sitting back in the back, but I mean, it's up and down. When a car rolls off the assembly line, it has a set decibel level. They now have this, I don't know who, I think it's Ford, now has this Mustang that you can flip a switch and make it sound better than it really is. But there's a number of things that could be done. I think this is a first step.
Okay.
Only a first step.
All right.
But I just want to say, I agree wholeheartedly that we have noise problems. And as the police chief knows, I have noise problems where I live from folks that have dual exhausts. And they've taken the exhaust pipes that come off the assembly line and they make these monster things. When you and I were first getting our license, if we roll through town with a glass pack, we'd have gotten a ticket. We don't do that anymore.
So was that a motion,
I
boss?
stand adjourned.
Was that a motion?
Would someone, I'd entertain a motion that we approve the change in the time from 11 o'clock to 10 o'clock.
So
Yeah, it's the
moved.
nighttime hours.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Second, all in favor, please. Okay, further discussion.
Did we scrap section 8.17? Amplified sound permits?
Yeah, yes, I do believe actually that was on there, Amy, that we scrapped because as far as I know, we haven't issued one of those in
We did that years
how long?
ago. Yeah, that was.
Since I've been here, there's not been one.
Whether it's amplified or acoustic, the noise level is the.
Stayed with the decibel.
I'm just saying, that looks like
That-
a change from
you-
what our quote code is right now, and I just wanted to bring it up.
Okay.
No, you are correct. I forgot to add that in the memo. That is my fault on that one.
I'm not saying we shouldn't, I'm just saying
Okay.
that's part of.
Yeah,
it.
no, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, but we do have a motion to change the time
And a second.
and a second. So I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand, say yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. We've got that approved. Okay. And we'll go back and look at the burning and grubbing issue and come back with the definitive report on permitting and so forth.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, our 14th item on the agenda, 179 North First Street, revocable license agreement request, Michael Mathis.
So in quick, the property owner at 179 North First Street is interested in repairing the stairs that lead from their front yard down to First Street. However, according to the survey prepared by L. Stephen Foster and Associates, the existing stairs are located on town property. According to their landscaper, who is here tonight, the owner wants to repair the steps, bring them up to code, but please note that the stairs will not be expanded or reconfigured. Accompanying this memo is a draft revocable license agreement, a survey of the property, and some pictures from 2008 and 2016 that I pulled off Google Maps and one from 2022 that I took. I have talked to Lamar Nix about this, and he did not express any concerns.
Move to approve.
And, oh, excuse me, the landscaper Josue is here, and he, if you would like to come up and,
No, my question was, it looks like that a significant amount of that rock wall is also on town property.
Right.
Does this revocable license agreement cover that too? Because it's not mentioned.
does the draft, is it mentioned in the draft, Gibby, do you remember? Or is it just the stairs solely?
Just the stairs.
Okay, so it is just the stairs covered in that. I mean, we can expand that to the wall.
I mean, we don't, that was prior to us giving revocable license agreement, but
Yes.
now that we are, anything that we should be able to, if Lamar needs to dig it up to put a water line in, we should be able to do that without having to fight the landowner.
Then absolutely, then we can include that in the revocable license agreement. And if they have a problem with sign it, then they won't be able to repair the stairs or any of it.
These agreements run with the land, not with the owner, is that correct?
I
When
assume,
it
yes,
says
yes.
successors and assigns, I'm assuming that means that it stays in the deed for forever.
Yes, this is the first one I've dealt with, but yes, that's,
Okay, that's what I thought. I just want to make sure.
Commissioner Haynes made a motion to approve
I'll second that.
and a second.
I still
Wait,
think.
are we adding the wall and then?
yeah, we'll include everything.
It's shown on the sketch. The wall is in the city right away, but not in the roadway. So,
Okay, so I just need to add-
Well, but the wall goes right up to the stairs. You
right.
have the stairs and then
Right.
you have the wall. So
Right.
you know,
Yeah, we'll include
Understanding
everything.
it's
We'll
included.
include the wall. and
Yes, sir.
stairs in that.
It is included.
As amended.
Okay. So
And a revocable agreement means, and they agree and understand that if the town of Highlands needs that for some utility, it comes out.
I have expressed that multiple times.
Okay, just so
Yes,
long
ma'am.
as they understand that.
Absolutely.
we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? We do have a second from Commissioner Steeler, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, item number 15 is the fire department matters. Ryan Deerhart, Chief.
So the first matter is the
purchase of a new truck. Just a little backstory. We built our substation in 2015. And we took 2 trucks from our main station here in town out there, which was right at 2,300 gallons of water that's taken out of the city. So since then, we started talking about trying to replace that water in town. Because right now, if we have a mutual aid call to Scaly or any of the other places, and we take our 2,000 gallon tanker, that's another 2,000 gallons gone out of the city. So we formed a committee. Tubby Zachary is our chairman. So if you have any questions for him. The 2024 E1 commercial pumper / tanker, 2,500 gallons of water. It'll be a tandem axle truck, international. It will come completely equipped. Air packs, hose, nozzles, everything that we need. Add water and go firefighter. Grand total of $500,039. So coming from the truck committee to the department, as a recommendation, the department voted on it to go with more equipment out of Hendersonville for the purchase.
And we can expect delivery in 19 months, how long?
Approximately 19 months.
Okay.
This is cash. You're not getting a loan or anything like that?
No.
for- Okay, you have it in the bank.
Yes.
So the fund balance, you already got it. You've been
Yes.
expecting it.
Right, that's what they said last month. Move to approve.
Second.
Second. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you
Aye.
very much. Okay, proceed to order.
Thank
Chief, okay. The next thing, the furniture purchase.
So in the contract for building the new station, furnishings were not included. So we decided to needed to move some money over to help pay for, or to pay for those. And that is also, we have the money. It just needs to be put over.
We approve the budget amendment
Second.
Second.
for the fire department.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you. All right, and then finally, the fire and rescue grant recognition.
So I've lost my page here. What was the date?
The
March,
22,
I think it
March
was in March.
17.
Davis came
Yeah.
right.
and go ahead, Lamar. So Davis applied for that grant and we did receive it. So it's $35,000. At the time that we applied for it, we had to fill out an equipment list. Our top 2 priorities were the extractor for the new building and a dryer for our new building, for our turnout gear. And then some equipment that we needed on our trucks is getting dated, the nozzles and so on and so forth. And they're expensive. So we put those in there. Since then, the state has lifted that you don't have to abide by the equipment list for this certain grant for this year. We still want to use it for what we had listed, for the extractor and dryer, obviously. And then for, it was nozzles, gas cabinets, things like that, that'll go in the new building as well.
Okay,
Move to approve.
second.
Second.
All right. Hearing no further questions, all in favor, raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, item number 16, financial matters. Rebecca Schuler, and we adjusted the agenda where the auditor's recommendations will not be discussed at this time.
You have in your agenda packet 5 policies that are ARP policies. I went to a conference in September and was made aware of these 5 policies that the School of Government staff recommends that we adopt, just to have in the file in case we ever get audited for the monies that we received from the ARP, which went to the Morewood project.
So these policies came from
School of Government
school
staff.
government? Okay.
And they've been researching this now since this
Yes.
program got started.
Rebecca Badgett did most of them as templates, and all we had to do was change
Put our name in there.
Mhm, yep. So if you have any questions, there's a non-discrimination, allowable cost and cost principles, eligible project, real property, and records retention policies.
I move we approve the
Second.
RP policies.
Second. All right. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Well, thank you both. Thank you. All right, let's now move on. We'll skip the auditor's recommendations, although I think that's going to be an important conversation and review to have at the next meeting. And we will go to credit card implementation and fees, and then we will go to credit card fees for online bill pay.
The Finance Committee met Monday morning and we discussed the possibility of implementing credit card fees or credit card processing at 4 locations within the town. We had discussed doing it just at the ice rink, but if we're going to do it at the ice rink, we have to have PCI compliance. Therefore, it's really not feasible just to do it in one location. So we're discussing putting it at all of our cash handling locations, the pool, the rec park, the ice rink, and at town hall. You have all the information in your packets to read. And I can't get to it really fast. The link didn't work on that one. Just give me just a second to get the correct page.
Can I just ask for?
You can ask, yes, go for it.
Basically, personally, I almost pay everything now with
Yes.
a credit card. I'm about to go on a trip. I might carry a little bit of cash, but I use my credit card.
Yes.
We're basically kind of embracing the reality that people now, when they go to the ice rink or the pool, a lot of times they don't carry cash. They don't want to deal with it. And they're perfectly willing to pay that 4% fee if they can just use their credit card.
Exactly.
And we have the system, or have it in place to assure security and so forth.
Yes, it will also eliminate having to have cash handling at those locations. So we eliminate fraud, I guess is how you want to say that.
Okay.
Did you find your thing?
Yes. So if we buy, we had talked about the higher models and it was going to be about $8,000 to purchase the machines. But we decided that we would just do the little handheld machines. I copied you the specs so that you would have more information on them, and they do the taps. So they can tap them. It is going to be about $3,000 to purchase all 4 of those. And then the annual maintenance will be $717 that year. So for a 5-year total for all 4 of them, it would be $5,584, or we can pay monthly if we would like, which just depends on the way you would rather do it. I will probably know more information after we start trying to get it implemented and decide for sure which one we want. But that is really.
So what you're saying is if we buy the machine, the little thingies outright, actually, my math says it'd be $6,301, but
okay.
Or if we just rented them over the 5-year period, it would be $12,000.
I have $12,000 for the monthly to rent them, yes, but I had $5,584 for the 5 years to purchase them. I think that includes the annual maintenance, because I told you we have to pay a little fee per month for the software.
Yeah, you should have annual maintenance $14.95. For 4 of them is $179.40, and then for a year it's $717.60.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just that then I multiplied that
last number wrong.
$717.60 by 5 and got $335.83, not whatever you got.
That's fine. Whatever.
Not that I, not that I care. I'm just pointing out.
We just need to
Buzz-
decide.
Buzz
Yeah.
recommended that we buy them.
Yes.
The little one, because it would probably be cheaper, and we had you check, and it is cheaper.
Yes, it
And
is
the-
cheaper.
The technology is probably not going to change, and
Not within 5 years, 10 years.
well,
Well, even if
it's
it
a 5
changes in
years,
3
two-
years.
2.5
we'd
years,
save
we
money.
save money.
Yes,
Exactly.
Yes. We could buy them again for that amount of money.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had a question on the page
Just
210.
don't drop.
Okay.
It looks like you have software plans. One of them's called Payments, Essentials, and Register. And then you get a different processing fee because of them.
Yes.
Is that what that means?
Yes. If you look at the top of that, one is, I think it's actually even different. I think one is a starter. If you actually look at the beginning where it had the $4.99 on page 209.
Uh-huh.
If you look right there at the top, it says starter, standard, and advanced.
So that goes with payment.
And the software. And we really need
Essentials
to,
and Register.
yeah, we need
Okay.
the register. We need the one in the middle. We need the standard because we need to be able to run a report to make
Okay.
them balanced too.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out, where was the cost of that? So
The
that,
one in the
that goes
middle.
back to the starter, standard and advanced. You know,
Yes.
It's called Payment,
Yes.
Essentials, and Register.
Exactly.
Okay. So I guess the question was, did we save anything by going to the, oh, I guess at $44.95, that's a significant difference, isn't it?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is a little bit.
So even though the percentage transaction is,
We could do it for the free amount, but before I would say that we could definitely do it, I need to make sure we have a report that we can run.
Yeah.
Because we definitely need a report
I
out of
understand
those. Yeah, yeah. So the $14 one, I believe, is what we need to stick with per month.
and that's what you had figured our maintenance annual cost on.
Yes.
Okay, that's where that came from.
Yes.
Got it.
That may be the difference in the cost that we got.
So what do we need?
So what do we need in the
We
motion?
need a motion to proceed to start getting this into place. And if anything major comes up, we'll come back before we do anything crazy.
Do we
money-wise.
know what the PCI compliance is going to cost us?
I do not. I told you we weren't 100% sure because we think, and the man that we talked to at the bank thinks that the bank will help us walk through that. But Matt's also working with that JCSM company that does our security audits. And I think they have something that they can help with us as well, because it may get very complicated and he had to leave, but in the sonic walls and all that tech gooey stuff.
But that could cost us.
It
more
could
money.
cost some money and we will come back before we.
Is that
have
an
to do
annual
anything
or
with
is that just to become
It
compliant?
more than likely would just be a one-time fee until he upgrades the machine 10 years down the road or whatever.
So I think what we're asking is for the board to give approval to proceed with
Yes.
developing a program, and Rebecca will report back the
Yes.
specifics of the program
Right.
once it's in place.
Yes, because we need to get that into place for the ice rink especially.
Soon,
Yes,
in the next month.
yes.
Okay, I make a motion that we proceed with putting credit cards in all our cash. The
Second.
ability to accept credit cards in all our cash. places.
Okay,
Second.
second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's unanimous. Thank you, Rebecca.
You're welcome, Mayor.
Mhm.
The last thing that I have to present is the online bill pay credit card fees. As you know, during the state of emergency COVID-19, we voted to, or you voted to waive those fees for online bill pay to help us reduce face-to-face contact and being able to get the payments in. Over the past 3 years, I've listed the amounts there. It went from $18,000 to 27 and projected with 1 month this year, it's going to be around 47,000. With that amount of increase, we wanted you guys to look at that and decide whether you would like to put that back into reactivate those fees for the customers. Beforehand, the company that does our third-party billing charges, we don't actually charge a fee. They actually charge the customer directly. So we didn't have to fool with that at all. We just put it on there and then they charged it. So they would take it out of their payment to begin with. So we didn't have to mess with it.
Is that not why it won't happen now?
It will, it'll go right back to the
Just
same. I just didn't know exact percentage to tell you that we would charge.
Yeah, and I remember we had the discussion, waive the fees,
Yes.
the 18,000, it's saved in efficiency with the
It
staff.
did.
But the 47, that's out of line.
No, it's getting a little up there.
Yeah.
So, and if we're gonna start,
So you don't know what the fee is what you're
I
saying?
don't know what the fee is right off. It looked like it was gonna be about 2.2.
So it's a percentage of the payment.
It's a percentage of the payment, just like a regular credit card
So
fee.
it doesn't have an additional fee on top of that?
No, no.
As a fixed fee?
No, and we do offer in-house bank draft, which we discussed, and that's free to the customers or the citizens if they would like to participate in that. We do that monthly. And we also have electric e-check, and it's $1 per transaction if they would rather do that instead of use a credit card. I would ask that maybe you put it off one more month and let us advertise it before we just pop people with it again, or charge it again, just to give them a little bit of a notice.
Okay, if that's okay with Josh.
That sounds like a good idea to let everybody know it's coming. And when would that be?
It'll be we have a billing coming up like this week, the 25th, next week. So I would wait at least till November and let us get in a couple of advertisements in the newspaper.
But would you want to
Start
pass a
with
motion
November's
tonight to approve the process?
And just started
Online.
in November's billing cycle.
Resume the fee.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moved.
So move. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
okay. The vote was 3-1. All right, thank you. The next item, street tree removal request at John Cleveland Realty, and that will be Lamar Nix.
In your agenda packet, you received some pictures of some trees in front of John Cleveland Realty. I was approached by Mr. Michael Thompson on behalf of the property owner, Miss Cleveland, to take a look at these trees. So I got in touch with Josh. We went and looked at them. After looking at them, you see that the tree planter that these two trees in is quite small. And that these trees, they're root bound and so forth. The idea of replacing them was our conclusion, probably not a good idea in the proximity. This sidewalk is very narrow. And the planter itself encroaches into the sidewalk, and the trees can never really mature and become their potential. So our recommendation to the board is to remove these two trees and restore the sidewalk without the planter.
Okay.
Looks like that space is big enough for a 1 gallon rhododendron, maybe max. So I'd get rid of them.
Okay.
You don't think there's any possibility of extending these out like the other ones, rather than the rounded curve that we've got there? The rest of them in town with the grate, it's extended out into the.
That takes up the triangle.
You're dealing with an 8-foot sidewalk on Main Street, and this one's much more narrow. Right off the bat, the first picture, that tree, I would have to move it left or right because it is in the wrong position within the striped parking space to be correctly placed anyway.
Right.
There's other trees in the area that's on the private side of the sidewalk. They're actually crowding these trees out, at least one of them.
Isn't one of these trees the ones that caught the car that time?
That's correct. Actually, I think but I think it is one of these.
Brian Shafter make that a memorial tree, wouldn't he? For catching the car.
So what's gonna catch a car in the future going into the building?
The building.
Mike Thompson.
Okay.
I agree, that's a narrow sidewalk. I don't see where it's buckling the sidewalk or the pavement or anything right now, but it probably potentially could.
Yes, and if you go on down to
The trees are so root bound there that
about the
they're gonna.
third
die.
picture, you see there's trees on the private side that are actually growing into the street tree.
Mhm.
And if you remove the ones that will let those trees bush out and
Yeah,
everything.
they have more room to grow. And then there's another tree down at the end of the sidewalk, at the intersection. It has plenty of room. The planter's much
Because it's
bigger.
bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd make a motion to take them out
Got a second?
And
Restore.
Make-
and reestablish
make-
the sidewalk. Sorry.
do what now?
I said I would take them out and reestablish the sidewalk.
Okay, that's what
That's
I
your
was saying. I
motion.
thought you were gonna put another one back in there.
No.
The gallon, rhododendron.
No,
He was teasing.
Yeah, but, and then fix the sidewalk.
An arborvitae.
that's correct.
Okay.
So that's the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, please raise your hand, indicate by saying aye. Opposed? No, aye. Okay.
I was looking for additional comment there, but
Well,
that's okay.
okay. Thank you. Thank you, Lamar.
All right.
All right, and then the last thing on the agenda tonight is the private road maintenance. I know, Lamar, you sent out on the packet a review of what the policy's been. So would you like to go over it or its highlights?
Well, Josh asked me to summarize what the town is sort of an unwritten policy, to summarize it so we could at least get in black and white and review. There's two different issues here. One, you got minimal maintenance on private streets. Another thing, you have snow removal, two separate entities. So I did that. I summarized it in a letter in your packet. I'm not going to read it word for word for you, but that's basically what it is. When I came to work here in '94, that was the direction I received from the mayor of Cleveland at the time, was to do minimal maintenance on private streets. In particular, it was actually certain private streets that were annexed in, I think, in the early '80s. They felt that the time that these citizens were taxpayers and those streets were not town streets. Most all of them are still not town streets. And that they needed to receive some kind of maintenance perhaps for their tax dollar. That was the feeling at the time. That was 40 years ago. So that's what we've proceeded to do, at minimal maintenance on these particular streets. As defined as I put it.
And this is something that's going
Gravel.
through
Scraping, mowing, pothole repair, and some drainage repair, but not paving the road.
And, you know, a few years ago, Lamar had this conversation with you, especially as we have our emergency vehicles and the garbage trucks. The scope of this maintenance was to make repairs that would enable them to do their
Continue.
service work.
That's correct. And that's a big gray area to work within. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It creates issues of what to do and what not to do. What is right, what is wrong. If it's a town street with a well-defined right of way, we have a right to be there between here and here. And the town does the best we can within it. Someone's personal opinion of what we do on some of these streets between the bounds may differ from ours. It opens you up to some issues. As far as drainage repair, we have replaced some culverts on these minimal maintenance streets. But, you know, I can see potential for that to be a problem. It hasn't been one. It could be down the road. There's no doubt about it. I think some clearly defined lines in the sand would be easier for me to navigate through, because we're on the hook with damages to private property when we enter those streets. I'll remember a previous town attorney, and I won't mention any names, Bill, that was related to a current town attorney, Jay. But when he learned about this particular policy that we had, he had issue with it, but we continued to do it.
So you have two issues.
So he had issues with the fact that we might have damages on private property, so we shouldn't be doing anything on these roads?
Those just stand, Judge.
Huh?
So that's the private minimal maintenance issue. The real reason that we wanted to meet as a public works committee to start with was actually snow and ice removal. And that's the second part of the letter. There's some streets that are in particular just too dangerous to be on. And the committee asked me to make a list. So I did that. I think there's 6 of them. Those are the ones we've had hard times with. We've damaged vehicles. We've got vehicles stuck and then other vehicles stuck trying to get them unstuck and then have to bring in a whole other department with heavier equipment to get all of them out. It is my recommendation. And this comes not only from me, but street department superintendent. These 6 roads we probably shouldn't be on. And I think it was agreed by the Public Works Committee that we should notify them as such, if the board agrees that we should not do those. There are issues doing private streets, subdivisions, condominium areas. Some people in particular are not happy with the way we did it. It wasn't wide enough, or we pushed snow in this parking area, but not that parking area. You can only do the best you can when you get into these areas. The fact that you get there at all is doing well in certain circumstances. So the Public Works Committee's idea was do the town streets first. That's our priority. When we get those done, move to the private streets and the subdivisions and whatnot. They've come next.
Okay. And I think that with more people living up here year round, there's been more pressure to get out to the private roads quickly and clear them. And especially in last year's snowstorm where we had over 12 inches of snow, you had a handful trying to just clear the town streets. And I know there was some frustration about
there was a lot
delays.
of frustrations because the expectations have changed. Definitely in my career. That's what's expected of town government.
Yeah.
And with the more people staying here year round, especially with the issues that have been going on across the country in the last couple of years, it's pretty hard to get around. And then when you get to some of these remote areas that you put off till last to get there, that may have time to have accumulated to 12 inches. Where the town streets that we do pretty regular, it never is allowed to accumulate because we keep going over it. So it's not as treacherous as when you go to hardscrabble, which has not been scraped yet. It's 12 inches deep. It's had time possibly even to fall a little bit and freeze back, which is even worse. So these areas can get dangerous.
And in your report, you were also saying that if there's someone who needs emergency medical support and everything, of course, you'll work with EMT and making sure that they have access to
That
that.
changes our priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions of Lamar?
I know the town attorney does not agree with me. I don't believe he does, but if we historically maintained a road, it seems to me that we own it. And I know you and the town attorney and Josh don't agree with that.
You're right.
You're right, I don't agree.
Right, I don't agree with that.
Okay.
At what point did these 6 actually expect the town to maintain these roads since they're all private? Have they come to you? Have there been complaints that, the one thing that really sticks out is hardscrabble. Well, that's not an old subdivision. That's a relatively new subdivision. Certainly the streets in there were subdivision compliant.
Separating 2 issues. We've never done any maintenance out there. But when it comes to inclement weather, there's no one inside the city limits that has a call and requested us come get them out.
Okay.
No one.
And they shouldn't. I agree with the previous attorney who will remain unnamed.
Well, I've
You know, it's
had,
private. If they want somebody straight, they can call Mike Bryson.
but
I mean, all of them
But-
call the town.
I've
They
had,
will ask for assistance, everyone.
I've taken calls from certain people on those streets who say, I pay taxes to this town and I think I should have my private
Well,
roads
they ought
straight."
to pay homeowners association dues so they can get their own blade out there.
That's one way of looking at it.
That's the only way to look at it, unless they're dedicated town streets.
Okay. So
this
I
was
know
just a-
Commissioner Hayne doesn't agree with the maintenance issue of private roads, that they become town roads, but, you know, to me, Lamar has kind of created a policy document.
I just stated the record.
Yes.
It's just what we've done.
Should we endorse that? Have a motion to endorse?
I'll
that?
make a motion to endorse what Lamar's come up with.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Second, any further discussion?
Yeah, I would add the ability that Lamar at some point in the future could expand that list if needed,
If necessary.
if necessary.
I'm glad we have a policy, a draft.
Okay.
Okay, so let me make sure, you want to continue the minimal maintenance as we've been doing.
We still have to get emergency vehicles.
I don't want, that's snow removal.
No, that's not snow removal. We still have to get the garbage truck and a fire truck and anything else in there. And if it's a washout because of a drainage issue and you can't get the ambulance through there, that's a emergency issue.
Okay, and if I
That's
feel
minimal
that it's a
maintenance.
little bit of maybe a no-go on a maintenance request, would you like for me to bring that to the attention of the town manager? And if he feels so inclined, bring it back to the board, because some of these drainage requests could go pretty large.
Yeah, I don't want you to have to feel like,
If I feel uncomfortable with it,
right,
Sure.
and I don't have any issues.
it's not your, the buck doesn't have to stop with you.
Okay, now on the snow removal, this is our list. Is that
It's the list with Commissioner Dotson saying that as you
If I need to
continue
expand.
to do
As of
this, if you feel like it
2022.
needs to be expanded, you
Okay.
can do that.
Because we don't know what else might be going in and out there.
Well,
someplace.
We will notify these people.
Okay.
I mean, I probably don't remember, we were told that we had to put back a sign that was in the right of way because it got snow pushed on it and it knocked it over. Do you remember that? Lamar?
I've had to replace gates.
And in that last big.
And it's in the
snow
right
event,
of way,
12
which
inches,
means we have to put the snow somewhere.
we
We were
were,
putting it in driveways, we were putting it in the right of way, and yet their sign was in the right of way. They were pretty pissed.
well, in the last big snow event, we were plowing a private road that had just recently been paved by the homeowners. And we had a situation of operator was coming around and down a hill, lost control, damaged the road, clearly.
Well,
And
the truck lost control, they got stuck.
and had to
The
pull
truck
it
that
out.
went to get them got truck. So I had to send another piece of equipment and to gain leverage to get both trucks out, the pavement was damaged.
And almost immediately, I was getting calls, when are y'all gonna go out and fix our road? Well, we had to kind of wait for the snow to be removed and everything, but we had to do that. But so those are some of the issues that we encounter when we're.
Yeah, it's just
doing
not a
the-
good situation from one
Yeah,
side or the
very
other, and I
difficult.
don't know that there's any
I have a
good.
question though. If you're concerned about emergency vehicles getting on private roads that with minimal maintenance, what about needing to get on a snow covered private road?
Well,
That's what we're
they're
talking
not,
about.
it's just priority. I mean, we don't have enough people to get every road done
But if-
immediately.
You know, if we have a call saying that somebody needs medical assistance,
Then you have to.
we'll divert and we'll go in there and plow, yeah.
Well,
To
if
get
it's,
the ambulance in.
It takes a lot of time and then
But that could
Well, it's a
happen.
life and death.
That happens anyway.
Emergency situation.
Chances are they're already dead anyway, so.
There
No,
are
but-
some, there are some
but-
areas we just don't go now.
Okay, we have a motion. Let's get back. We had a motion to approve. Commissioner Steele, you made the motion to approve the
Correct.
policy that has been developed by Lamar. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Second, okay. I'm ready to call a vote on this. All in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. We had 3 approved, 1 opposed. Thank you, Lamar.
Thank you, Lauren.
All right. Item number 19,
So moved.
Bang.
an adjournment. Do we have a unanimous vote? I think we do. We're adjourned. Thank y'all. Thank you for your time.